All right. So this is the 32nd memorial of the events of Mount Carmel, February 28th to April 19th, 1993. Can everyone hear me okay?
Let it know.
Yep. Okay, very good, very good. The technology stuff, you know. So we are going to have some featured speakers here today. I know that Phil Arnold is going to be speaking, of course, Kathy Wessinger. I'm not sure. I'm hoping that we can get Mr. Dr. James Tabor to say a few things. This is the first year for quite some time I wasn't able to go to Waco to be there with y'all today. So I'm very blessed to have Kevin Jones say yes to being on the ground there and helping me co-host this event today. It's really it's just a blessing to see Kevin be there and kind of take a more central role in these memorials. As you know, Kevin, you, Heather, your family is that you are the next generation. You're the people that have that experienced this when you were very young, and you lived through the nightmare. You lost a lot. Y'all lost a lot, and to have someone like you, and of course Heather, keep the memories of the people alive is very important. And I just I commend you guys for all you do there and all that you have been through and go through every day. And I just you know, I'm in awe of you guys. I'm in awe that you guys are able to continue on and lead successful lives. And you know, you're an inspiration, Kevin. You and your sister, and you know, all the kids that went through what y'all did. I just really appreciate you picking up the slack here and helping this year. Thank you so much. Okay, so I've got a lot to get to today. We're going to be doing the names at around noon. We'll be reading the names, and we have it set up so there's a bell there. I won't be able to hear the bell because for some reason through Zoom it cancels out. So when the slideshow, when it goes to the next slide, I will read each slide number, and Kevin's going to handle the ringing of the bell there. Well, you guys may not be able to hear it on the Zoom call, but there is a bell that we ring after every name. And so we kind of worked out those technical difficulties yesterday a little bit. I like to thank, like, just before I forget this, because this is I got a little ill the last couple of days, and I'm just getting over it now. So thanks for bearing with me. But I would like to thank Valerie Parker of KWTX-TV there in Waco for the use of the studio for the memorial this year. For many years, we've done it at the Taylor Museum of Waco and McLennan County history. And they just, you know, they're doing a lot of revamping, and they're creating a better space. So we can't use it in the interim for the last couple of years. We haven't been able to because they're, you know, they're improving the museum. So I really appreciate KWTX for allowing us to do the memorial in their studios, where there's all of the technical things that we need to pull something like this off. And Valerie Parker was, you know, she helped out greatly in allowing this to happen. Helen Howell Graves, I just want to thank a few people up front, or else this wouldn't have happened. Director of the Taylor Museum of Waco and the McLennan County history, for her support of this memorial and helping facilitate all of this. Paige Davis is the collections manager of the Taylor Museum, for her research on the events of 1993. Can't forget Destiny Hallman, administrative assistant for the Taylor Museum. She's been a close personal friend over the years and has really helped with all of the memorials. And I just can't thank the Helen Taylor Museum enough for all they've done throughout the years and allowing us to have memorials there in Waco. And Calvin B. Smith, Legacy Museum Consulting. I guess he handled the Taylor Museum setup of the exhibitions. So those are some people I just want to thank up front for allowing us to do this memorial here. And of course, I can't thank enough Kathy Wessinger for all she has done throughout the years and helping facilitate all this and getting there and making sure that the technicals on the ground are going to work. Just such a blessing, these people. Thank you all so very much for allowing us to do this. All right, so let's see. I know this year there's quite a few of the survivors that couldn't make it to Waco. It's been an incredibly difficult year, I think, for many, many, many people and many Americans. Let's hope it gets better. I don't want to waste too much time. Is Kathy? Do we have a list of speakers today, and who should start off? Is there anybody that's ready to go that would like to say a few things? And Phil's there on the ground?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Dr. Phil Arnold, come up and say a few words for the memorial this year. It is the 32nd memorial, in case I didn't mention that. The events happened in 1993, so it's 32 years it's been, people, 32.
Here's better.
Be on camera.
Like to hear?
Yeah,
Sit at the main desk.
Stand?
Yeah, main desk. You sit right here, the microphone. Camera.
I'd like to stand if I can. Okay. Very good. Well, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay in the back if I don't use the microphone? Can you still hear me? Good. Thank you. Thank you, David.
We can't see you here on the Zoom call. We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, if I sit down, then you can see me, right?
How's
Yes.
That? All right, good.
Now we can see it.
Good. Well, thank you again, and it's always an honor to be here. I remember being here 2 years ago, and we made with Dr. Wessinger and Dr. Stuart Wright. We all made presentations, sort of academic presentations. Today, I just want to talk to you personally about some of my experiences and what I think needs to be said these days concerning what happened here at Waco in 1993. Now, I was finishing my dissertation at Rice University, and I had studied some of the apocalyptic groups that we find in Second Temple Judaism. And I had studied a lot about the various groups and how they had, they were willing to suffer for their faith. They really believed that the Roman army might represent the powers of the Katim, the enemies of Israel. And they were willing, for example, we have the story of Masada, where the Jewish people there were willing to suffer, if necessary, against the Roman armies that had them surrounded there. So I was familiar with some of these stories. But of course, I had no knowledge of the Branch Davidians and what was about anything about Waco and Mount Carmel. And like many of us, I was watching television that day, and I saw the news media interviewing, talking about David Koresh and being surrounded by. So I looked at that and I thought, well, I hear what David is saying to these reporters, and I realize they're not going to understand what he is saying. They're not going to understand the book of Daniel, chapter 7, chapter 12, the 1335, the 2300 evenings and mornings, the 1290, the times and times. They're not going to get any of that. And so I said, that's not good that the media is not going to understand it. But then I realized that means law enforcement trying to resolve the situation, they're not going to understand that type of Bible language. They're just not going to get it. And so I realized after I read David's sermon that was published in I think it was the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. I read that at the University of Houston a couple of days after February 28th. And I realized then that David Koresh has a systematic understanding of the Bible prophecies. Now, I didn't agree with it, but that's beside the point. I realized that he had a plan. He had an understanding of how the seven seals were going to be, revealed. And in the process of doing that, I realized that he was very serious, that he really believed in the Seventh-day Adventist tradition that had manifested finally with the Branch Davidians, that he really believed they were on the cusp of the fulfillment of the book of Revelation. So I began to wonder, well, what seal is he in? If he's interpreting the 7 seals, are we now in the first seal, the second, the third, the fourth, fifth, according to his view? Then I grasped the fact that the FBI would not understand any of that. So there I was with a dilemma. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do? Faced with that. And I remembered I had read, and a person I respected one time told me the story of let's just say you were on the streets in 1936 in Warsaw, Poland. And for some reason you knew, because you had a time machine or somehow you knew, that within a few years, the Nazis, the government, would come in and begin to persecute, kill Jews. The Warsaw Ghetto uprising. You knew this was going to happen because you knew the future. What would you do? What would you do? And I was faced with that question because I knew the group had the understanding of prophecies and that the government, for all its good intentions, simply would not understand any of that. And this could end in a calamity like 2 freight trains coming down the same track. So what would you do if you were in Warsaw? Would you grab someone by their lapel and say, you got to get out of here, get your family, get your children, get out of Warsaw before this happens? Or would you go watch television and do social media? Of course, there was no social media then. So what would you do? I drove to Waco, as you know the story. I spoke to the FBI. They had no real interest in Bible prophecy or trying to understand the worldview of the Branch Davidians. And then I did talk to the media. And eventually, Dr. Tabor from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte and I, as you all probably know the story, we decided to go on Ron Engelman's radio program because we knew that the Branch Davidians listened to that program every morning. So we went on the program that Ron graciously gave us 45 minutes of his hour-long program. And we tried to not argue with David. We simply tried to ask him some questions, tell him we were interested in what he believed and what he was teaching. And we made some suggestions that if the prophecies are being fulfilled, it's going to take a little longer than 30 or 40 or 50 days. It may take time and half a time, 3.5 years, or maybe more. And that he would prophesy again to many nations according to Revelation chapter 10. So we presented that possibility out there for him to consider. We do know from the attorney, Dick DeGuerre, that he heard the broadcast. He later heard a recording that Dick gave him. And then that's when we came around Passover season. David prayed and came to the conclusion that the waiting period was over. Remember, the reason they couldn't come out, they told the FBI, was God has told us to wait for a little season, to wait for a while. And so they were waiting for the revelation to come when they could surrender. Well, during that Passover, he got the revelation. We know that because I have the letter here from April 14th that he wrote, and he said, God now has shown me the waiting period is over with. All I have to do is write my message, which has never been written in the history of humanity. Even the Bible doesn't make it crystal clear. He's going to make it very plain. Here, he says, and then they will surrender. It might take, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to write it. So he begins writing it. And so we believed at that time that the government would definitely wait and give him time because this was the breakthrough. The key was the waiting period is over. That's what we were waiting for ourselves all that time. And finally, that waiting period was over. The community was happy and they rejoiced and they were ready to come out and surrender. We know that. We do know that he was writing because after the siege and after April 19th, soon thereafter, Ruth Riddle brought out a disc that had the first seal all explained with an introduction and a poem. He was working on the second seal also at that time. So he was truly working on it. I do have copies of the letter that he wrote. And he says, as soon as I see that Dr. James Tabor and Phil Arnold get a copy of it, then I'll be ready to come out. And we were to give it to scholars around the world so that his views could get a fair hearing. And so As you know, that's how I got involved with it. And that was my purpose, was to save lives. I was just trying to save lives, believing that the FBI simply needed worldview translators who could translate the language that the religious group was using into terms that the government could understand. And then they could use that language in order to accomplish the purpose and resolve the entire crisis peacefully so that no one would get hurt. Now, in conclusion, I want to remind everyone that the reason the Branch Davidians did not come out earlier, let's dive right into the point. Why did they not come out? We don't have to go through all the prophecies to understand why they were waiting. We can do that if you want to in detail later, but just in principle, why did they not come out? Well, because they believed that God had revealed through the Bible, through their church tradition, through the person that God was using at that time, David Koresh, and through their own prayers and meditation, that God wanted them to be there for a purpose, to be within Mount Carmel until that purpose was completed. And so what they were doing is they were following what they believed God wanted them to do. Is that so hard to understand? We see that with other people down through history. You know the story of Joan of Arc, right? She believes she hears these voices, and they tell her to go defend France and fight against, lead fighting against the English. And she is captured, and no one believes her, understands her, and she's eventually executed by burning. Well, sometimes people believe that God wants them to do something. It may be something in your lives that you've experienced that. I call it a perception. Instead of judging it, all I want to say is Joan of Arc had the perception that God wanted her to do something. Okay? The Branch Davidians had the perception that they needed to do something. So they were being faithful to what they believed was God's plan for them. So they're praying, they're studying, they're worshiping, and they're following what they think God wants them to do. Meanwhile, the FBI is following the protocols that they believe they should be following. So we have sort of both groups are following something above them that is guiding and directing them. But we can see that in the case of people who are religious and have a strong faith, they're not going to surrender, because what would that be doing? That would be betraying God, with whom you've been in conversation for many, many years. Remember at night, the little prayer, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. See, that's a dialogue a child or a mother or a father might have with this eternal being. Well, you do that for 20 or 30 years. There are some people who are living a life of being in dialogue, in conversation with what they believe is an eternal realm. Now, there may be some other people, maybe some here, who never experienced that type of thing. So I see sort of two approaches. There are people who live alone, sort of bent in over on themselves, and they have themselves. They never even think in terms of something eternal. That's their business, that's their right. But there are people who don't relate to the idea of there being something with whom they're in contact. So it's a little hard sometimes for people who don't have that sense of the transcendental to understand why other people would be very concerned about that. The Branch Davidians believed they were in dialogue with God, and that God was speaking through scripture and their prophet, and that's why they could not surrender. So in my final word today, I just want to remind those of you who had and in a sense still have loved ones that were in Mount Carmel. And maybe you feel forsaken, maybe you feel alone. And maybe you wonder sometimes, why didn't they just surrender and come out and be with me? Maybe some of the children that were released, you've grown up now, maybe aunts, uncles. I just want to confirm and affirm to you that the Branch Davidians, those good people there, they loved you very much. And they really believed that in time, they would be right back here with you, that they would come out soon, that God's waiting period would be over and they would join you again. They were not casting you away. They thought they would be reunited with you in this life, within a few weeks. That was the plan. And they were rejoicing over that. So they loved you. They cared about you. And I want you to always remember that. They love God and they believe that this was what the God that loved them wanted them to do. And their love for you was very strong also. And they cared about you. So I want you all to remember that. They were not planning on ending their lives or being killed. They really believed that if these prophecies were given as warnings, and if people would follow the prophecies, that is, understand and act upon what God wanted for the community, that is, if the government would give them time to fulfill what God's prophecies were, and they would then surrender and come out. That's what they were hoping to do, and they wanted to be united with you. So those are the words, after all the scholarly technicalities that we could study forever. I just want everyone to remember, this was a community that was in dialogue with God, the way they understood it. That was their perception. And they loved you and they wanted to be with you and they wanted to re-enter into the community and bear witness to their faith. So again, God bless you all and thank you for listening.
Phil?
That was spectacular. Thank you, Phil. That was spectacular. Dr. Tabor, did you have a question?
At some point, I wanted to say something. It can be anytime. So, did you hear me, Dave?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Boy, while Phil was speaking, it really triggered a lot of memories for me, and especially how solid we were as a group. How after the BATF attacked, that event literally solidified the group in what we consider truth. It was like what David had been saying for years had come true. They made it come true by coming in with the helicopters and the cattle trailers and having the different teams surround the building and one team go and shoot the dogs, which a lot of the indications of the very first shots fired were the shots fired at the dogs, triggered the whole thing. Nobody knows for sure, but that over the years, and from the testimonies that I've read, BATF as well as people that were inside the building, that appears to be the most likely scenario, is that team went after to suppress, quote unquote, the dogs and started the whole thing. So, you have to understand that this is a group of people that, well, for me, I wanted to know what the Bible really said. But some of the other people, they had been there for decades. Some of them had been there maybe just a matter of a year or two. So many of them flew in from England. They flew in from Australia. They flew in from various points in the world to learn these 7 seals. What are these 7 seals that this guy Koresh is teaching? And so within those 7 seals, there's Psalms. There's 150 Psalms. And David and, the people through David believe that those Psalms were about a group of people that would have to go through an experience in the latter days, something called the wave sheath, people call the wave sheath, that would have to literally go through what the Psalms say would happen. Okay. So we'd be reading that and reading in the Psalms how the whole world is against this person and against his people and who he is leading. And then, you turn the TV on and there's the siege. And there are people from all over the world commenting on it, from England, Israel, just everywhere. And it seemed for a while, especially when the FBI were talking to Russians who had to there was a Russian individual who was an expert in psyops, and they were talking with him. We kept reading and hearing about articles of different people it seemed like the whole world was against us. And so when you're reading in the scripture how the whole world will be against you, all of the factors that took place during that 51-day siege solidified the belief of the people. And every time the FBI put pressure on us by destroying our vehicles or running over sheds or running over Peter Gent's grave, every time they did something like that, it solidified our faith. It solidified the message, okay, that we believe, that the people there believe that Koresh was bringing, right? And that just, it can't be understated. When I wrote a book about the experience, I stayed away from the scripture. I still don't really get into the scripture, but it was all scripture. The whole experience was scripture, whether you like it or not, whether you believe the scripture or not, none of that, you know, that matters to the individuals that were there. Obviously, that matters to the survivors, but, you know, nobody is trying to convert anybody. We're just trying to basically stand up and say, this is what happened. And sometimes what we say happened interferes with the events of what the Treasury Department or the government agencies that were involved say. I think everybody's viewpoint is important. Everybody has a right to their experience. I wrote about mine, and it's just, you know, the whole thing at the end, it was all so avoidable. I think that's the tragedy here. It was just the arrogance of power out of control, and a group of people who really truly believed in something so much they were willing to fight and die for it. And that's what Mount Carmel was. So thank you, Phil, for inspiring all that, because that's what you brought to me today, thinking of going through that experience and what happened and why we were so, you know, why people weren't coming out, despite the fact that they had tanks on the other side and that all their words were really nice, you know, come on out and we'll work everything out in court, everything's going to be fine. You know, we knew different. We just been attacked, we just been shot at, and then lied about in the media. Immediately, they started using words like cult, using words like mind control, and all this. You know, all these demonizing words to just really kind of, you know, hurt, to try to point their finger. And when it's you against the world, man, that's quite an experience. When all you have is God and the Word of God, and that's your only ally, you know, you stick with that. You kind of double down. There's nothing else you can do at that point. And so I don't know. This is probably, you know, I've spoken about this before. I'm trying to speak about it a little more intimately. For anything in the future, for any groups in the future, for any people in the future that get targeted by power and have to fight for the very existence. We're seeing that today. We're seeing people that have a right to be here being shipped off to El Salvador, being shipped off to another country without due process. Without due process, and they're going to jail. They're going to these horrible prisons. And I just, it's just not right. Everybody has a right to speak up for yourself and to be able to defend yourself, and you have a right to due process. This is America. And that's all. I just, I'm so sick. I look around at everybody. There's so many people today that are just, I don't know how to express what I'm trying to say, but I find that people are being very crappy to other people. There's just not enough love out there, man. I mean, I'm not coming from a peacenik angle here, but we need to take care of each other. All right. We need to love one another and really need to just remember that this country is based on a Bill of Rights. We're based on a constitution. We have certain rights that we all have an entitlement to. We're entitled to these rights. And Waco is a prime example of what happens when those rights get violated. to the point where they have been. Just you have what you have now. So I just, that's my reminder. I would like, I don't want to run out of time here. There's a lot of people to get to. Who would like to be the next speaker? I see Dana is here. Maybe she'd like to say something. Oh, well, let's get Dr. Tabor on. Dr. Tabor raised his hand, so you're on the hot seat.
Okay,
James.
thanks. And Dana, if you want to go before me, it doesn't matter. I didn't see. Okay, good. Yeah, I'll be brief. I'm not sure I can stay the whole time. That's why I wanted to say something. First of all, hello, everybody. When I listened to Phil and now to David, I'm thinking of the poet Bob Dylan, the prophet Bob Dylan. Every one of those words rang true. They glowed like burning coal, pouring off from every page like it was written to my soul, from me to you, tangled up in blue. Many of you know that? And I'm feeling the rush of that emotion from listening to Phil. I lived through a great deal of it with him, and he's such a passionate and wonderful human being for justice, truth, and righteousness. And David as well, an honest seeker. So now I got all emotional, and I was going to say something official, which is uh, I'm so glad to see Stuart here and Phil present and Kathy, there and me here in Charlotte, because the four of us as academics have banded together over the years, as you know. And the Bible says a triple cord cannot be broken. Well, a quadruple cord, I'm telling you, like if you stand with four people and lock, and I'll put this link in again to a playlist on Waco that I have on my YouTube channel. And Kathy has this up, and I think others too, but you'll have it if you don't know, and spread it around. We have a 3-hour video. Could you stand a 3-hour video where Phil and Stuart and Kathy and I sit around the table and we worked on the organization for weeks. Like we didn't just, oh, let's just sit and talk. No, it was like topical. How did you hear about Waco? Who are the Branch Davidians? It's really well done. 3 hours. And I use it in my classes and, make sure people really watch it. But so I'll put that up. But I feel very moved that the four of us are here with you all because we've been in all those documentaries and all those, attempts to write editorials and so forth and books, right? We've written. So, but what I wanted to say, spinning off of that, what I had in mind when I first raised my hand before I heard you guys was to make the statement that sincerity does not guarantee truth in any field, religion, whatever. So let's go to religion and religious experience, the social psychology of religious experience, which Stuart and I and all of us study. The social and individual psychology of religious experience, that is when someone feels or believes that they're hearing from God or they're being guided and suddenly passages of the Bible coming together. I study this through history, starting with the earliest Messianic movement. We know the Dead Sea Scroll movement, which is my main focus, and then all the way down, and Phil does as well. And there's a long chain of people that have looked at these same texts, come up with different interpretations for their time. But there's actually a residue of commonality that's quite astounding. They're trying to figure out when these weeks start and when these days start, and they come up with different things. So sincerity does not guarantee truth. It doesn't even indicate truth. If somebody's very, very sincere, which many people are about religion. But you know what it does? Because it's sincere, it guarantees a continued quest for truth. You follow? And as if you sincerely think you have truth, that doesn't mean you have truth just because you're sincere. But if you are sincerely, I mean, truly with all your heart, believing what you have is truth, no matter what happens, you will continue the search. You might even go in another direction, but it's that heart that is guiding you. And whatever view of God you have, I hope it includes God looks at the heart. My favorite verse in the Torah is not, even beyond the Ten Commandments, is when Moses says twice, O God, Elohim, O God, Elohim, who is the Lord of the spirits of all flesh, not just Jews, not just of all flesh. The Elohim means the ultimate power, force over the spirits of all flesh. So to me, every single sincere person on earth is united in the spirit, and we're all in different places, every single person. And I'm using sincere in a deep way, literally. You understand what I mean? People that think deeply and they want to do the right thing and they'll make sacrifices. And, we know what the values are, basically three, right? Truth, justice, and love. Those are the three values of the cosmos, and everything else comes from them. Truth, justice, and love. So if we're all into truth, justice, and love, we already have a great fellowship. David and I have talked about this. You don't need to be in a thing as a human being, you're already in the thing. And then we're all on a path. So I wanted to pass that on to you because, you might be at a point, this is kind of what Phil was saying, where you don't really know what you think. You know what? That's such a sincere and wonderful place to be. Don't worry about it. It's actually good. Better than falling for something that isn't true and you find out later, right? I think the great sanctuary of the cosmos, the temple, the holy place, is the spirits of just and good people seeking. That's the sanctuary. I'd like to call it the academy, Stuart. We do try. Because that's the whole idea of the academy. Remember, it comes from Plato's Academy. You sit around on the steps of the Acropolis, and if you ever go to Greece, go there. Just imagine Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, those very steps. It's pretty moving. And they call themselves the Academy. And what is it? To seek truth. To seek truth. So, and you've read Plato, all of you, I'm sure. It's amazing. He said, well, what is love? And you go, wow, okay, let's go into that. So I wanted to leave you with that and just the encouragement. I love you all. And there are some regarding Waco specifically, we didn't stop on the 30th anniversary with a lot of the special things. And that wonderful movie that David was so involved in, just called Waco, is still out there and it's actually still doing good. The Paramount Pictures. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of mistakes, but boy, it also captures something. I play it for my classes, but things are still going on. I just got asked to lecture at University of California, Santa Cruz last year on Waco, and we're still speaking and writing and so forth, and others are joining us. We have other scholars coming in, and so it's not over, and I'm hoping for some major breakthrough somehow along the way. Okay, thanks.
That was absolutely awesome. It was awesome. God, Dr. Tabor. So what you said, it just opened a floodgate within myself. And I've been thinking a lot. I love the difference between, the sincerity kind of, that is the true religion to me. That is the true religion of the world, is the sincere. And all I could think of when you said that was hypocrisy. and the striking differences between sincerity and hypocrisy. And you get a lot of people, in church, maybe even your church that you go to, and you come across some hypocrisy every once in a while. I'm sure you do. Everyone does in life with people. And there are people that just, they claim that they're something, and then you find out the hard way that they're not what they claim to be. And then there's people that make huge mistakes, acknowledge those mistakes, and ask for your forgiveness. And that's the difference. Those are the sincere, the ones that know that they're human and they're going to mess up, and they're going to possibly mess up large, and are going to need that forgiveness. And so when you think that word sincerity, it's so perfect, James, is so perfect, because it transcends every religion. It transcends all of it. You can be Jewish, you can be a pygmy, you can be anything, and be sincere to what you consider to be your religion.
Right.
And to me, that those are the people of God. That's just a wonderful way to look at it. And I think that's why people are attracted to this story. And we have people from all over the world still today that get in touch with me, and they say that there's something pulling them toward reaching out to me, something pulling them toward their interest in Waco. And I can always tell the sincere. I can always tell when I get an email from someone that this has been on their mind for maybe, in some cases, years before they reach out, and they don't know why they're so tied to this. I don't either. It's just something, it's there. It's a magnetic force that pulls us together. I like to think it's that sincerity. Kathryn, did you have something to say? Somebody's saying, I'm not sure who, if you're not muted, please mute unless you have a question.
David, can I say something?
Yes, please do. Is Stuart?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Mr. Stuart Wright, ladies and gentlemen, in our midst.
Today is the 30th anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. And a lot of times I'm split between going to Oklahoma City or going to Waco. And as some of you know, I did quite a bit of work on the Oklahoma City bombing. I was hired by Tim McVeigh's defense attorneys, and they kept me on retainer for a year and a half. And I interviewed Tim McVeigh 3 different times, had about 9 hours of face-to-face interviews with Tim McVeigh. And the reason I bring this up is because I think that we need to remember the lives lost at Oklahoma City. 168 people died, and 500 others were injured, many of them permanently. And I always think of these two things as inextricably linked, because if Waco wouldn't have happened, these people in Oklahoma City would be alive today. So it's almost like when we consider the lives that are lost at Waco, I consider the Oklahoma City bombing victims additional lives lost because of Waco. And if we start doing those numbers, you really start seeing the incredible impact that this all had on all of us. And I've done a couple of interviews already on the Oklahoma City bombing. I did one late last night for the BBC across the pond. I had to stay up to midnight because there are hours, the 6-7 hour difference. But I was very specific in linking those two things together, because I don't think you can think of one without the other. So when we think about the lives lost, we think about the damage done, not only to all those families and survivors and victims at Oklahoma City. You can almost think of them as collateral damage for what was done at Waco, and the much larger impact that has on our society, on our culture, on our networks. I'm actually an Okie. I grew up in Tulsa, and I had a lot of friends in Oklahoma City, and I actually had a close friend of mine who I later learned was the head of the Social Security Department in the Murrah building. Fortunately, he wasn't there that day, but he lost all of his staff. They all died in the Murrah building. So it's personal to me in many different ways. But I think that it behooves us to memorialize and honor those lives that were lost as we think about the victims today in our memorial.
That's beautiful. I a couple days ago I got pretty sick. I had a terrible cold, and I spent about a day sleeping. But I knew that the memorial was coming up, and I turned on Netflix because I was incapacitated. And there's a new Netflix documentary about Oklahoma City. I think you're in that, Stuart. I think I watched about half of it before the cough medicine passed me out again. But it had me thinking, and I love what you just said, because I was thinking, for a big part of the day yesterday about Oklahoma City, and of course, watching the documentary and seeing people's testimonies that were there, and how obviously it changed their lives. That's how needless it was. It's just so needless. And I remember that memorial. It was the second memorial in Waco we had, and we were getting ready to start. I think we'd started, and someone had come up to me, and it was someone from one of the news agencies, and they showed us pictures of the Oklahoma City building smoking. And they said, "What do you think about that?" And I said, "I had no idea. I hadn't made the connection. My whole focus was on our memorial, the second year memorial, and I didn't know what they were saying. I didn't realize until later what they were doing, but they were tying our memorial together with what happened in Oklahoma City." And I said, I think that's absolutely terrible. Anyone who would do something like that, and then you find out that many of the people that died were children, that they had the child care there. And it was just horrendous. It was like getting punched in the stomach seeing that. And then, it wasn't until later when I had time to digest everything and realize, well, originally they said it was Arab terrorists. And it was much later till we found out that it was, like a white kid from middle America. And, possibly others, as they say, responsible. But it's the fact that any kind of violence in the name of Mount Carmel was disgusting to me. I mean, it was disgusting to my very core that kind of atrocity could take place in the name of what the government did at Waco. And there's not, Clive Doyle, anyone who knew Clive, not only, we were absolutely disgusted by this. And it was hard for the next several years going forward, knowing that we're always tied with that, or that the name of any of the people that had to live through the hell that Waco was tied to the further damage and destruction of Oklahoma City. And of course, the focus went from being the memorials of Mount Carmel to in the country, especially in the mainstream media, to the memorials of those people that died at Oklahoma City. And I never had any problem with any kind of memorial to any of the people at Oklahoma City. But it just seemed kind of convenient that was used to kind of, again, try to take Waco and sweep it under the carpet. So, we made several statements, and I will make every statement as long as I live, that any act of violence in what you consider to be avenging Mount Carmel is not okay by any of the survivors, none of the kids, nobody that went through that hell. That's just not okay. Violence is never okay in this situation. The followers of David, the people that died, would believe and would tell you that let's leave it in God's hands. And actually, as I get older, and the more that I learn, the more that I study, the more, I've been doing a lot of videos on mythology, how through the course of mankind, the course of history, the same story gets told over and over and over again. It gets recycled and reused. You think of from Star Wars to Buddhism to Christianity. All of these themes are played over and over and over and over again. And the people of Mount Carmel would tell you that it's in God's hands, right? So what I would say to any religious people, any people of any faith, like we were talking about the sincerity thing, either that's going to be on my mind for the next year. That one church of the sincere coming together. I love that, no matter what denomination you are. But these man, I just wish everyone could just get together and stop screaming at each other and realize that we're all one people. And the enemy is not the guy that lives next door because he has a different viewpoint. The enemy is that person that's trying to get you to fight. The people that are trying to get us to fight amongst each other are the enemy. It's not the people that you think are next, that you want to fight next door because they believe something different politically or religiously or whatever. And these themes are just important going forward. Anyway, thank you so much, Stuart, for that. That's absolutely beautiful. And Oklahoma City is, I actually had a chance to go there for the first time just a couple of years ago. And it was the first time I got to go, and it was pretty powerful. It was a powerful experience. I spoke to somebody recently that emailed me, said that they went from Oklahoma City to Mount Carmel in a day to see both sites. And I thought that was must have been a special experience for that individual. I had something else to say, but I overwhelmed myself with emotion, as I tend to do. So I'm going to pull back and see who the next victim is here that wants to speak at this 22nd year Mount Carmel Memorial.
Kathryn.
Wonderful. Kathryn Wessinger. One of my favorite people in the world.
Oh, hi, David. Thank you. Hi to everybody. And I want to shift focus just a little bit. And for a little bit, I want to focus on the Davidians, the original group who were here, who were founded by Victor Hodev. And recently, Phil and James and I have been in touch with a member, our former member of the General Association of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. That's Dudley Goff. Is Dudley here? Is Dudley on Zoom? Well, I just want to thank Dudley and also thank again the Taylor Museum for everything that they do. And not long ago, Dudley Goff donated all of his materials from the General Association of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. He originally gave them into the custody of Dr. Phil Arnold, and we recently Phil made the transfer to the Taylor Museum. So when the exhibit is, when the museum is finished with its renovations and when the exhibits are redesigned, there will be a very nice exhibit on the Davidians who were here originally, and out of which Ben Roden and Lois Roden and David Koresh emerged in terms of the following lineage of prophets at the new Mount Carmel. So Dudley Goff's collection is wonderful. It has a lot of the tracks by Victor Hodev. It has the charts, if you ever see them online. It has the charts by Victor Hodev. And I've interviewed Dudley a couple of times on and you can see the videos on my YouTube channel, and he's talking about the history of the Davidians here in Waco. So thanks to Dudley Goff for that collection, and thanks for the Taylor Museum for the ongoing work that it's doing. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. It's too bad that's all you have to say, though. I always look forward to what you have to say. Actually, while you're there, didn't we have an individual who was in touch with Pablo Cohen's mother? Is he here?
Yes. So I'll let him introduce himself, but he is here, and he's brought a letter from Pablo Cohen, and he wants to read it. So
I would like to hear that letter very much.
yes.
Okay, my name is Jonathan Cahana-Blum, and I've been in touch with Pablo Cohen family. Pablo Cohen was the only Jewish Israeli who joined David Koresh's group and stayed until the very end. He met David Koresh in 1990, August 1990, in the old city of Jerusalem, in what was called the Festival of Love. He was a musician, and therefore that was the first contact between them. In 1996, his mother, Shulamit Cohen, published this book, which is, you cannot really see it, okay. It's called One Story and 28 Poems. And as a part of this book, she published the last letter he wrote her from Mount Carmel, apparently around September 1992, which I would like to read to you today. The letter is, of course, originally in Hebrew, but I'm reading it in translation. To my precious and only mom, shalom to you. And first of all, thank you for all the good news. And of course, my thanks is to the Holy One, blessed be He, because I know He heard my prayers and what I've asked for came to pass. Except that, my thanks are for your good wishes for my 28th birthday. Thank you for the presents. I know I am sometimes a nudnik about my fate, and when I want to share with you the mysterious and philosophical aspect of my studies with David, and if I were too much of a nudnik, I'm sorry. I hope you will understand that each person sees only a very little part of what others try to explain, and also that through a letter, it is harder. A letter doesn't have human voice, and sometimes a joke may sound like an invective. It is hard to know. It seems that despite all of the poetics, there is always a place for misunderstanding. And it may be better to leave things in doubt and not to argue in a letter. We intend to play in Dallas, perhaps already in this month, and to leave for California in the winter, when the weather is more pleasant. This way, our time to spread our message approaches, in the sense that the message is through us. But we have no pretenses of authority by itself, because all works gets more exhilarating when, after planting and plowing the land, in the end, when we get to harvest and see the fruits we grew by our own hands. Seriously, I'm telling you, I'm 200% fine, even if I sometimes get a cold or my stomach hurts now and then. The Holy One, blessed be He, applies pressure, but He does not strangle. More than that, He gives us reasons to overcome every obstacle that appears, as long as our faith is clear and consistent, and mine is like that. I say to you shalom with 1,000 warm kisses and hugs to you, to Jorge and to Raul, and greetings to everyone. I hope you will be together in the upcoming holidays and that you will be well. Pablo. Thank you.
Wow. That was incredible. The Holy One applies pressure, but He does not strangle. That's I got to meet Isabel after all of that. I had survived. My mother was there, was talking with Isabel, and she lost her son. And there was just I had no idea what to say to her. There's anything I could have said. There's just nothing. You know, it's like you want to comfort people in that hour of need like that. And I had just this impression that all I represented to her was someone who survived when her son died. And, you know, that's just something that anybody that survives anything goes through, something called survivor's guilt. It was pretty intense back then. You know, you have to take some years and get away and just realize that things are what they are for a purpose, and you have to do the best that you can with what you got, with what you're given, with the blessings you have, and where you take them. I had to learn the very, very hard way over the course of the last 32 years to count my blessings. I didn't always count my blessings. I didn't realize really, really what that truly meant. But as you get older, And as things that used to interest you no longer interest you, and you have different viewpoints, different ways of looking at life. You can see how you were maybe 20, 30 years ago is not how you are now. How you view things then is not how you view things now. You have to, the one thing when I was falling into darkness and negativity, that was a huge part of my life, is the anger that was always there after Waco, especially after the Rules of Engagement came out. I saw that documentary. There was a new form of anger after seeing that documentary that has just simmered within me. I think there's a bit of it in all of the survivors, but for me, it was particularly profound that I had to read a book that reminded me to make a list of everyone that you love and everyone that is special to you and has done things for you, and even some of the things that you have in your life that you love, and make that list of blessings, and think of it every day when you wake up, and think of it every day when you go to bed. And for a while, my darkness was so profound and so strong that every day I didn't want to wake up anymore. I wasn't suicidal, but I completely apathetic to everything. And so I made my list and I started counting my blessings. And every morning, everyone that I love, everyone that's helped me, everyone that I care about, I thank God for them in my lives. You're all on it, Tabor, Stuart, you're all on it, that list. Kevin, my friends here in Maine made the list. All my ex-bandmates made the list. And it was extensive. It went on. It went on and on and on. Douglas, Ed, you guys were on my list. It saved my life. I encourage everyone to think about making a blessing list and see how it changes your outlook. It's an amazing thing. Okay, who else wants to speak? Because
Steve's got his hand up over there.
who?
Steve. I'm pointing this way or this way.
Steve. Am I missing something?
Hi, David. Steve Wraith in Newcastle, in England.
Oh, hello. Let me get there. Hi, Steve. Now I see you. Okay. I'll mute. Give yourself an introduction, would you?
Yes, my name's Steve Wraith. I'm an actor, writer, and documentary maker in the United Kingdom. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me to share your Memorial Day again with all of you. I'm one of those people that you referred to, David, that watched the events unfold as a young man in the UK and couldn't believe my eyes. I've read books, I've watched documentaries, but I've always felt that there was more to this story, and I was right. My conversations with Livingston Fagan and yourself, David, and getting to know some of the other people who were in the chat today, I've got to know quite a few of you on social media over the years, have helped me understand more about the real Waco, and I'll always be grateful for that. In the future, I do intend to visit the USA again, and one of my bucket lists, tick lists, whatever you want to call it, will be to come and pay my respects in person. I just want to let you know really today, like I have done on previous memorial Zoom broadcasts, that the people of Mount Carmel will never be forgotten and will always be in my prayers. Thank you again for allowing me to be part of this in 2025, and my thoughts are with you all.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah,
Dave,
thank you very much.
could I add something?
Please do.
Okay. I've never written this. David Thibodeau's heard it. Phil Arnold's heard it. But the Pablo Cohen letter has prompted me to reveal it. The reason I'm being cautious is it's just so crazy. But in '93, after the fire, I headed for Israel, my haven, to get away from Waco, to not think about it for a while. And I arrived on a Friday night. And I was walking in the old city, the Jewish quarter, where David lived when he was there, as I found out in about an hour. And I ran into a rabbi. I won't name, well, I'll name him. I can't remember his last name. Yeah, David. I'll think of it in a minute. He's has red hair. He's known all over. He's been on CNN and so forth. And he said, "Oh, James Tabor, wow, you're here. I didn't know you were here. It's a Sabbath." He said, "Weren't you involved in that Waco thing?" And I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go." Because I just wanted to just, be somewhere else. And Thibodeau came over later after that. I think the next year maybe came, or maybe that year, I can't remember. I was alone when I first got there. And he said, come to our place for Shabbat. It's Friday, it's near sundown. And I was just going to go back to my hotel and, drink a little wine and get over jet lag. So I thought, okay, David Aaron is his name. You can look him up, Rabbi David Aaron. And so he gave me the address, and I went, knocked on the door. It was a duplex, upstairs, downstairs, in the old city, right by the parking lot by Zion Gate, where I later dug for 10 years. And I went up, and when I got up there, they put me at the head of the table. It's a big table. It's yeshiva students, American students, Jews that are there for a period of learning, learning their Judaism, their Torah. They're just normal American college age kids. And Rabbi David Aaron runs a place called Israel Light, Lite, play on words. It's like, it's a light version of Torah and it's light. So I'm in the head chair, I'm the guest. He wants me to speak a little bit to the group. And I said, well, I don't want to speak on Waco right now, but I will, because I was afraid I would bawl, but I will speak to the group. And he said, well, let me tell you something. You don't have to speak on Waco, but do you know where you're sitting right now? I said, what do you mean? He said, this is the apartment David lived in when he lived here. I can't. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're also sitting in his chair because the furniture is the same. I was speechless. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, when I rented it, David was walking down the stairs with his guitar and luggage. And Rachel was pregnant with Cyrus, and and you checked the dates at all. They were coming home. And he said they were going out and we were moving in. I rented, it became available, and these places get snapped like that. So I just said, well, you don't know what you're doing to me here. I came here to get away and not think about it for a while. And I'm sitting in David's chair in the house where he lived. Something's going on here. And shortly after that, my friend Gene Gallagher said, Tabor, you got to write a book on Waco. And people know who he is in religious studies. He's notable. And I said, I don't know where to start. And he said, well, I'll co-write it with you. Let's do it. And we did, our book called Why Waco. So that apartment experience taught me that you can think you're leaving something, but I might not be. And then David came over too. But as a result of that, I call Pablo Cohen's mother, because they put the biggest, most embarrassing picture of me on the Jerusalem Post. I mean, it was the whole page like this. It's embarrassing. I think I looked good back then. So that was all right. You remember it, David. I kind of have my hand on my hip and I'm right at the apartment. They did a story on it. So I guess I said it hasn't been published. It has, but that was like years ago in Jerusalem Post. So anyway, she knew who I was, and I was just reminded of that. I forgot I called her on the phone. And I said, I did not know your son, but I know the group and I've been involved, trying to help the group. And I've heard people mention him, and I was very interested because I come to Israel all the time. And, that there was an Israeli there. And as you were reading the letter, I picked up, those who know Judaism and Jewish culture, you would have picked up on many phrases. One is, I might be considered by some a nudnik. Well, some of you know that because it's kind of Yiddish talk, but the nudnik basically is a person that you ask them how they are, and after about 5 minutes, you wish you hadn't asked. You know, they're kind of like our English word, the British, Steve, I think would say a bore, you know, just a bore, a bit of a bore. Like, so that was cute that he said that. And then the Holy One, blessed be he. You never hear Protestants or Christians use that term, but it's Hebrew. The Holy One, blessed be he. It's the way you say the name of God without saying a name. See, so I noticed he did it 3 times. He said, and I know the Holy One, blessed be he. It's kind of cool if you think about it. Say it fast, and it's almost like, Holy One, blessed be he. So I wanted to share that. David's heard it, and Arnold knows it. But Phil and I had a couple of things similar to that that told us keep going. And by the way, we promised David we would present his seals to the Society of Biblical Literature and the American Academy of Religion, and we did. In November of '93, Phil and I published David's first seal with an interpretation that we wrote to help people understand. And Phil, didn't we make 500 copies? Anyway, standing room only. These are our scholars from all over the world. And they all wanted to hear, you know, because nobody knew what he had said. And we passed out these copies. We had students, and they're passing them out all over the place. And the Attorney General, Stuart, why can't I think of it? Ramsey Clark was there. Yeah, Ramsey Clark was there. And that was good too. The Attorney General under Reno, who was now taking I'm not saying our side, the side that we believe to be the truth. He was taking that side. Some of you remember he was Kennedy's Attorney General. A good man, turned out to be a good man. I also met with Janet Reno on campus here in Charlotte. After she spoke, she asked to see me, spoke to her for about 10 minutes. And she said, I've read your book. I've read other things that you scholars have written. And she said, I'm telling you, Dr. Tabor, I had no idea that there was a surrender plan. And the record will show that I specifically asked, is there any other plan? I was told no by Wes Hubbard and others. And she told me that. And I said, look, Janet, I've heard, or I didn't. I said, look, look, Jan. Hey, Jan. No, I didn't say that. I said, look, General Reno, you notice in my book, I did not blame you. I actually pointed that out. But, and I know, because I've heard you on television, tear up when you say that you think of this every day. But what you now realize is that it was doubly horrible. It wasn't just a tough decision you made or shouldn't have made. And, you know, you were not given the facts. And she said, I'm not saying this to you to salve my conscience or anything like that. You know, like it should not have happened, just should not have happened. But she said, I just want you to know that if we had even gotten that letter, April 14th letter, yes, well, we do have this letter. But if you look at the testimony, several experts said, oh, well, that letter's obviously insincere. Really? A psychologist can read a letter of someone they know nothing about and say it's obviously insincere. It shows that the people they were consulting with psychologically did not understand religion at all, which is not uncommon. They were reducing religion to psychological manipulation rather than something somebody would die for, as Phil said.
Hey, Jim, James, can I
Sure,
jump in
yeah.
here? The
Yeah.
psychologists you're referring to were Murray Myron.
Yep, might as well name them. I
think
almost did.
Louis
Yeah.
Jolius West. who were
Yeah.
both stringent anti-cultists and were inappropriate people
Absolutely.
to be consulting. And I would also add that Rena was lied to by middle management and upper management
Yes.
and FBI. So she was played, and so I think that's an appropriate comment for you to make. She was played.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Since I've made 3 speeches, I'll mute.
Keep going. See, I wish the nation could see this and hear James Tabor say what he says, and then hear Stuart Wright have a counterpoint. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. It's truth. It's something that everyone should have known. Everybody should have known that there was another option. Everyone should know in America that the FBI lied directly to the Attorney General of the United States of America and didn't give her all the information she needed to make a decision so important that it involved the lives of 130 people, 22 kids, 23 kids. You know, during the trial phase, there was the same judge, we talk about this every year, Judge Walter Smith, who was involved in the criminal case against many of the people that had survived. And he controlled the information that the jury got to see. And he wouldn't have anything to do with April 19th. It was all about February 28th, period. Okay. And so everyone was acquitted of murder. Nonetheless, they still found a lesser charge. I'm not going to get into all the details. Kathryn Wessinger is way better at pointing out what the actual specific details are to that. But then years later, we had a civil case against the federal government. And I remember I have a friend, a very good friend, that was my first roommate when I first moved to Hollywood. His name is John. And we've been friends throughout our lives ever since the Hollywood days. And he came to one of the days of the civil case. And we walked out of that courtroom, Judge Walter Smith again presiding, same judge. Yeah, awesome. And he looked at me and he said, I feel like I'm living in Nazi Germany. I can't believe what I just witnessed in that court. I said, and I was in shock, and I agreed with him. But it was things like, and this is again, our civil case against, this is our chance for any kind of restoration, any kind of justice whatsoever. And I remember we had a couple of different fire marshals who were going to testify about the holes that the tanks made in the building and the oxygen flow system they made in that building. So if a fire were introduced, the place would go up like that very quickly because of the amount of oxygen with 33-mile-an-hour winds that day. How it would be very hard to escape something like, I mean, you know, like a potbelly stove scenario. And we had our fire marshals there to testify, and the judge refused to allow them to testify for the jury. There were other cases of expert witnesses that Flair was never allowed in, as I recall. But there were many other experts we had that were not allowed to testify. The judge says no. Now think about that for a second. It's our case against the government, our chance, our day in court. But the courtroom is so controlled that you can't even put on a defense. You can't even have your expert witnesses be allowed to testify so the jury can hear an alternative view from what the government is presenting. I can't think of anything more devious, more dirty, more just outright anti-constitutional, anti-American, anti-everything that I was taught to believe in about this country growing up. I said the Pledge of Allegiance every day in school. I still consider myself to be an American. I've always been an American. I grew up here. I never thought I would live to see the things that I've seen in my life. Fascism resurfacing. It's awesome to me. I don't want to stay on this too long, but I don't recognize my country. And it started back then. It started in that courtroom with Judge Walter Smith and the incredible use or misuse of power to get to the truth. There hasn't been there hasn't been any justice. I don't think in my lifetime there will be, but there are many people that know things that they haven't told the public. And I don't care if you believe in God or the devil or Buddha or whatever you believe in. We are energy. This world revolves around magnetism and energy. And just as we got a videotape of this, and you can go back and rewatch everything that everyone has said here, I believe that the universe is deep enough and wise enough to be able to record said energy on this earth. And no matter what God you to believe in, I don't think anybody is going to get away with looking at other people and lying directly at them. I think, as David Koresh would say, it's all going to come out in the wash. And when we relieve ourselves of this mortal coil and go on to a different form of energy, which I believe is what happens, we go to a different dimension, a different form of energy, it's all going to be made plain, and we're all going to know what happened. And those that have lied to us and kept the truth from us and done, there's no escaping it. You can't get away with it. You can't get away from it. All you can do is postpone it in this life. So I'd say to those people who don't want to come forward with the truth that they have, to have a very good life, because that's, you know, I'm not to judge. We'll see what happens, but it's all going to come out in the wash. Okay, where are we at time-wise? Let me see here. We got a half hour. So I know we haven't heard.
Can I jump
Yeah,
in?
please do. Yes.
I sat through the entire civil proceedings of the case in Waco that was presided over by Judge Smith. And it was an horrendous miscarriage of justice. I published a couple of articles on this, kind of systematically going through some of the problems in the case, including him giving absolute immunity to all the police officers who said just made mistakes, but didn't take into account any intentionality. And I'm happy to share those if anybody wants to reach out to me at my email. It's stuart.wright@lamar.edu. And I have them in PDF, and I'm happy to share those. And they're fairly detailed in the problems and the miscarriages of justice in that court case.
How about one example right now?
Well, he gave all the federal agents who did some pretty horrible things, including the PSYOPs, operation to try to drive you guys crazy inside Mount Carmel, absolute immunity. So there was no leverage to prosecute so-called mistakes made by police officers. So every error, every Jamar holding up the fire trucks that came in to put the fire out, holding them up to allow the place to burn to the ground, all of those were considered errors, and they had immunity for them. So it was an impossible case, and the plaintiffs in that case, who were the families of survivors and survivors themselves, were not going to get justice on that day. And I remember something specifically. I think I put this in one of the articles during the break after Clyde had testified, and the federal attorney who was questioning him, he dove into his theology, which was completely out of bounds, and the judge didn't stop the line of questioning, which I thought was really a violation of his First Amendment right, and basically just kind of name called him and humiliated him and embarrassed him and ridiculed him and he mocked him. And after the testimony, we went into break. I was standing there when Walter Smith, the judge, walks up to the federal prosecutor and pats him on the shoulder and says, "Good job. You did a really good job of questioning there." I was blown away. So your fascist analogy, I thought, was pretty accurate.
Well, thank you. Jeez, I haven't thought about that day for a very long time because that's a tough one. Just how controlled the court system was. My eyes were open that day. Let me tell you, that was that. You'd
So
figure.
they tried to get that case removed and get the judge removed, but I learned later from some attorney friends of mine that it's almost impossible in a federal case to get a judge removed.
It was, the fix was in as far as we were concerned. When we found out it was Walter Smith was going to be presiding, I couldn't believe. I still to this day I just can't believe how much more the fix could have been in.
The hanging judge, right?
Oh yeah, the same guy.
Had that reputation. Yeah.
I remember watching him. It looked like he had a sunburn, falling asleep during the criminal trials. Like he dozed off all the time, and I'm like, what is? Yeah. The fix was in. They were gonna get the guys for something for sure. It was a hanging judge, absolutely. So let's see where we're at time wise. We got okay, yeah, another half hour. Great. Let's see. I'm kind of thinking. Is there anybody else before I call on Dana? Because Dana has some great stories about the people, but I'd like you to take us home right before we read the names. So if there's anyone else that would like to go before Dana, speak now, forever hold your peace. Kevin?
We got somebody here in the studio.
Okay.
Come
Is it
on.
you? Oh, it's somebody in the studio. Okay.
Actually, my cousin.
Oh, all right.
Hey, David.
Hi.
Hey, sir. How you doing?
Good.
How you been,
So
bud?
do us a favor, introduce yourself and tell us your story.
Yeah, it's a long one.
You got 15 minutes.
Well, I won't be that long. I picked up a book the other day out of Arkansas and Hot Springs about the Oklahoma City. I feel for those kids out there and those people. We really do. I'm reminded of that day as well. I know a lot of us are. But we did not ask for that. We did not ask for revenge. We asked for justice in this life. We asked for justice for those children. We did not receive that. I go back to those children because to me, it's the most insulting thing for me. You want to mess with the adults, have at it. Good luck with that. That's the type of stuff that gets you shot, you start messing with people's kids, I feel bad for those kids, we lost children. They lost children. I mean, it was senseless. It was, and it was unneeded. And I'm reminded of a time when I was 11 and a half to 12 years old. See, it happened when I was 12 and a half when it burned down. I was 11 and a half, 12 years old, and my mother and father took me out to the Kmart or the Walmart, down over here in Waco. And I remember David Koresh. That's the first time I've seen my uncle. I remember David Koresh, and I think two of my aunts were there, Rachel and Michelle, I believe, with one or two of their children apiece. They had 3 children apiece, Rachel and Michelle, that. But I tell you what, bud, you could cut the tension with a knife out at that Walmart, at that Kmart, about a year. It was about 6 months to a year. And I reminded myself of that day. I'm almost 44 now, how they could have got my uncle David Koresh out in town at any time, but they chose not to. And I know that wasn't the only place he went to. I heard he was out and about. And I really wish that they would have, if he was so devious and bad and this and that they would have grabbed him and got him. And I don't know, I had a serious conversation with him, you know what I mean? Like, what's going on, This is my perspective, But I remember that I got drug into this thing the day that it burned down on April 19th of 1993. I was 12 and a half years old. And I got drug into this. I come home from school. My mother worked at the government all day long, boys, men, women here. My mother went to work all day that day, and she worked for the federal government out here in Waco. She didn't come home until after her shift was done. And that's when I found out. She got home. She came in the house and she was wailing. I ain't never heard a wail like that in my life. I ain't never heard a woman wail like that ever. And I tell you what, you don't want to hear that. That's not something that somebody wants to hear. That was the most awful, disgusting thing. I'm not calling my mother disgusting. I'm just saying it was awful. I was disgusted by it. And it burned me down to the core, down to my soul. I don't even know if I even have a soul anymore, to be honest with you. I don't after that. My mother wailed for maybe an hour or two. And that's when I found out that I was related to David Koresh. You know, I knew Perry, you know, he came out and visited us a time or two to my house. We waited 2 or 3 days as if he was like, as if, you got to understand, we waited 2 or 3 days as if like my family was Lazarus. Not because, you know, we thought he was Lazarus, but because, you know, there was a bunker there and we waited 2 or 3 days. We thought maybe they had lived what they would have lived, but they didn't live. But we waited for him. We waited for him. And they didn't come out. And I had to put up with so much hell from this county and the people in this county, McLennan County. Years later, everywhere I went, where are you from? Waco, drug it with me. Now, I served underneath Bill Clinton. I'm proud to serve underneath Bill Clinton, George Bush. That's fine. I know they ain't perfect men, but, you know, somebody owes my family an apology. And that Walter Smith, I've read up on this stuff too. And I tell you what, I'm insulted. I'm insulted down to the bone. I grew up pledging allegiance just like my children do till this day. And I tell you what, it is a hard pill for me to swallow. You know, that's a hard pill. You know, I serve this country as a U.S. Marine. You know what I mean? I love this country. We all do. I know you do too, David. You know, we've had a conversation or two. I know what type of man you are. I do. You know what type of man I am as well. You know, I can't live in a country where the FBI and my government will not pass a law stating that they'll never use chemical weapons on innocent children in this country. I don't want to live here. I want to renounce my citizenship and really not have nothing to do with it, just for that reason and that purpose. And the fact that the judge botched the trial, the no apology, you know, my mother went through, you know, what my cousin sitting here next to me went through, and his sister, I see it in her eyes. Hell, I got gray hair and I'm 44. I feel pretty damn old, guys. And, you know, I will say this though, and I know it may sound, you know, I don't know. I hope nobody takes it the wrong way, but I do feel for all those people at Oklahoma City. But I'm reminded by this, had it not happened, how many other children would the FBI or the ATF gas or shoot on their farms, on their property? Now, we can't have that. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants their children messed with like that. Nobody wants that, you know? So there's got to be another way. Otherwise, we're going to sit there and we're going to continue to go down this road with more population, more people being messed with, ripped away from their families and so forth and such. And the devastation that it caused my family alone till this day is undisputable, to be quite honest with you. You know, I had to help bury my family a few years ago. You know, that was another nightmare. But, you know, such is life. But I'm going to tell you this, stay away from my children. Stay away from my children. That's all I'm going to say for those people. And that CS, methylene chloride was created, that I found out, shortly after 1865, after the Civil War. You know, it can cause cancer. It can cause mental confusion and death. I don't know what percentage that they use that as, you know, but I mean, you're going to put a chemical in a building that causes mental confusion potentially, and there's children in there. You know, had they did it for maybe 5, 10, or 15 minutes, now hear me out, 5, 10, 15 minutes, you use a chemical weapon and you want to get these people out, you want to create a tactical diversion, you want to do your thing, you know, okay, you could probably get me on board with that. 5, 10, 15 minutes of using CS and methylene chloride. But you use it for 4 to 6 hours, you run out and you go get some more. Now you're messing with people's children and you're asking for things that you don't want to receive in return. And Oklahoma City, I guess, was something that they got in return, I guess. I don't know. I don't like it. I didn't do it. I didn't ask for it. We just wanted justice. And that's it. But after all my family is done and all the people have spoken all over the years and have asked for justice and apology, they can't even get it. Not in this country and not in this lifetime. And that's insulting. You know, I've done a lot of bad things in my day too. You know, I've had to apologize to them, to people in front of their faces. I've done things out here in this county I ain't proud of when I was young, when I was a child. I have apologized for a few things, for a few people that I saw. I mean, nothing's hidden forever, you know? Nothing's hidden forever. It all comes to the surface, you know? I got a farm up here in Arkansas, yeah? For an example real quick, then I'll let y'all go. The people who've had it before me, they couldn't even bury their trash deep enough. I find all the pieces of glass, big old huge shards, pieces that are, you know, curved over. Well, I'm afraid for my donkey and my, you know, my children to fall on that. But one thing that the baby boomers and their parents didn't do a good job in this country is that, number one, they didn't bury their trash deep enough, and they let a lot of loose ends, and that includes me. I'm a loose end. I'm a loose end. I'm a pissed off loose end, you know? I mean, I cried too. I lost family, 10 people, 6 children, 2 twin 1.5-year-olds, a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. 2 beautiful women who we were told never even shot a firearm, who were good women. You know what I mean? My 2 aunts, well, you heard they were good women. I know they were good women because I have my mother and she's a good woman, and my aunts too. I know how those people were raised. They were raised good people. They raised me. I'm still here by the grace of God. A lot of people gave me some breaks over the years. You know, that too. You know, I'm content and happy, and I'm very appreciative. But I gave into this country too. But somebody's got to give a little. Somebody's got to apologize, release what they did to those children. And my mother deserves and is owed an apology. And I'm gonna just say it like that. She is owed an apology. They're owed an apology, man. You know?
Absolutely.
Sorry, David. I had to share that, but you know.
You know, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're fighting the fight. And I got to tell you, man, when I first met you, I was pretty worried about you, because I recognize the anger. I understand the anger at the lack of justice that we've all suffered. And, you know, I'm so glad that you got up here and said something today, because every one of you speakers today just inspires so much within me. And all of the survivors, I look at Heather, and I told this story, I'll tell it quickly. Heather and I are going into not a grocery store, a gas station. We're going to get something to drink. And I look at Heather, and she gets white as a ghost, and she's about to fall over. I had to grab her arm to keep her upright. And I said, Heather, what's wrong? And all she could do was stare ahead. And I looked, and it was a cop. And the cop was holding the door open for her, open for us, waiting for us to walk through. And that was her reaction at seeing someone in a police uniform. She froze and turned sheet white. And that's when I realized how profound Heather's triggers are because of Waco and everything that has happened when it comes to any kind of military or a police uniform. You think about that imagine every time you saw, imagine being pulled over, being Heather Jones. Imagine the terror that runs through you being pulled over after what she's been through. And that cop has no idea what she's been through. No one has any idea. So the anger, it's there with all, it gnaws away at you, man. It's gnawed away at me for the last 32 years. It always will. It's always there. You can pretend it isn't. You can pretend it didn't happen. Then someone cuts you off and, oh, wow, look at that. Wow. Where did that come from? We know where that came from. So, brother, I empathize with you. I understand. I'm glad you're still here. I'm glad you got a mule that you get to feed and you get to be with, and I'm glad that you get a family.
Misspoke. It was my donkey, said it. My donkey.
Yeah, I'm so happy for you, dude. And thank you for, being here another year, another day, another year, day by day, dude. Bless you.
God bless you.
Right on. Thank you so much for sharing. Dana, running out of time. Is there anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you saying Dana? Hi. Do you want to say something?
I wasn't planning to. I just wanted to be here and kind of hold space for the people who are here and provide support and just, show my face. Hi.
Really, nobody talks about the people better than Dana. I mean, she had experiences with them that I didn't, being long before, and nobody talks about the people like Dana. So you have to say something, hon.
Well, let me think.
Before we read the name.
Yes. Let's see. Well, I like talking about Jeff Little. I met him when we were both in college. He was this tall, 6'3" or 4" guy with red hair out to here at times. Best sense of humor ever. The man woke up and he was always in a good mood. And couldn't figure it out. Always in a good mood. And I asked him one day, I said, "Why are you always in a good mood?" He says, "Well, I just get up every morning and decide to be in a good mood, and I am." And he had this best laugh, and I can't do it anymore, but he was just a wonderful energy to be around. Speaking of energy, people thought we dated, but we didn't. Although there was a time where even David thought that we might get married, and it was at the time that I was deciding whether I was going to be in the house of David or not. And he said, "Well, you could marry Jeff." And I went, "Well, it's not like that with us." So it was very interesting that he kind of dangled it in front of me as a temptation, I guess he thought. But in the end, I chose to be in the house of David and take a different path. You mentioned Ramsey Clark early. During the civil suit, my family was involved in the civil suit. I signed on behalf of my kids, and I had the privilege of having Ramsey Clark at my side when I gave my depositions in Waco. And so my kids and I traveled out there to do that. Now, the kids are very young because I think this was in 2000. But I didn't know who Ramsey Clark was at the time. I've since found out. But I had the impression that I was sitting next to greatness. And that doesn't happen very often. So that was a very special memory for me later on. But that trip was the last time I got to see Sister Doyle. Now, I know you call her Sister Edna here, but I called her Sister Doyle. And she took care of Sky, my oldest, when he was still young. And she would take him to walk along the ponds, and there were ducks and geese over there. And apparently the geese chased him one day, and he got really scared. And she told him, "Don't worry, they don't bite." And so she said, "They don't bite," because he would say, "Geese bite, geese bite." And she said, "No, they won't bite." And so she took him for a walk by the hand, and she was telling him, "The geese don't bite." And he was saying, and she's telling me this story, that he was saying, "Geese don't bite no more." And she said, "No, the geese don't bite no more." And so he just walked with her hand in hand. "Geese don't bite no more. Geese don't bite no more." And she gave me these memories that I could share with Sky later on, because during that time, Sky lived on Mount Carmel and I was in California going to nursing school. And she would tell me these stories. And, I felt really guilty because I couldn't be with him, but yet I knew I was supposed to be going to school to do my part. But I got to see her in 2000. And she looked really good. It was nice to see her, both her and Roy Haldeman, her husband. And that was a good trip. And I'm really glad I got to see her. She had a little museum going at Mount Carmel at the time. And there were a display of things. It was just a tiny little thing. But yeah, I have good memories of her. And I don't have a lot to say today. But I'd like to say something about energy, because I know a lot of people carry such sad energy at this time of the year. I used to feel down, and I would call it my my springtime blues, and I didn't know for a long time why it happened. And I realized that's because this is the anniversary of when the siege happened, and it took me a few years to realize that this is what was bringing it on. And now that I recognize it, I don't feel as sad. I just see that it's coming. I know that it's here. I remember the people. I remember the good times that we had. I do my best to hold their memories. I've been noticing on our on the Facebook site that Kevin's been posting some videos of people, and there is a picture of a little boy wearing a bib in one of his montages, and that's Scooter when he was young. So Scooter's still here and alive and well. I don't talk about them too much just because they want to preserve their own privacy, but know that the children are doing all right. And I'm glad they're still here. I don't have a lot to say. Do you have any questions?
It's fantastic. We could open it up for some questions. We have
Kat
7 minutes.
Kat had her hand up earlier.
Excellent.
Yeah, okay.
I was gonna.
Good to see you, Kat.
I was just saying hi. I didn't have my hand up, James. I was just saying hi to Dana.
Well, too late now. Now you got to say something.
Now I got to say something. I just am joining to reconnect and say hi to people that I know and love. And I know that it's, David, when you were talking earlier about the blessings list and the survivor's guilt, I know a lot about that. And I think being able to see you guys recently and come and visit has made such an impact in my ability to overcome, to get past it, to remember with kindness and remember with sympathy while not being angry is my blessing that I've finally achieved.
It's a challenge.
It is a horrible challenge. And for my mother-in-law who lost her son, it was impossible for her. And when you said to Pablo's mom, what do you say? Yes, you're sorry for their loss and you offer your sympathies and your condolences, but losing a child, I mean, there's nothing more painful than that. And I could never, ever in all these years offer Sandy the sympathy that anything that she really needs for losing her son. And I can't, there's nothing you can do. You just have to move on and love everyone. I spend as much time as I can with Sandy and Mike's mom, and love everyone you can while they're here. That's all. Thank you, everyone.
That's what you say to her. You spend time with her. That's your, I don't want to say apologies is the wrong word, but that's how you honor someone that has lost someone. You spend time with them. You get to know them. Someone asked me once, what am I doing in Heather's life and in Kevin's life? Like, what do they have? How come I have an authority to speak with them and talk with them and be with them? And I said, because I'm a part of their lives. That's why. I'm a part of their lives. I'm always going to be a part of their lives. No one's ever going to tell me that I can't be in Kevin Jones or Heather Jones's life. No one's going to ever tell me that I can't be in Kat Schroeder's life or James Tabor's life. It's not going to happen. And believe me, I've had pressure from people that claim that they love me. They do love me. But that it would be best if I never spoke of these things again, if I weren't involved. You know, you get it from all angles, man. And this is where you got to buck up. This is where you got to say, no one is going to come between me and someone who I consider a friend, no matter how bad they screw up or no matter how bad I screw up. And in life, you find out when there's a tragedy or there's some kind of monumental thing that takes place. Usually you can count your friends on one, maybe two hands if you're lucky. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count my true friends, and you are all included in there. You people that come back every single year, Doug, Ed, oh my God. I mean, the list goes on and on. It's awesome. It is just, you people are just awesome to have stood by us, the survivors, the people that were affected, to be a part of this family. And like I said, it's a magnetism that pulls you here. I don't understand it, but I know it exists, and I know it's incredibly special. And I know it's not about this life. It's about something much bigger. And we don't know what it is yet. And we will know eventually, and we'll know soon, but it's something so much bigger. And for as hard as it is, and for all of the pain, the daily waking up and not wanting to wake up, for everything that comes with it, it's something that's so incredibly special. And you don't know who you are. All of you, each and every one of you within the sound of my voice, you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are yet. But you're all someone incredibly special. Dana, get your hand. Oh, we got James. Let's get James, and then we'll go to Dana. You got your hands up.
I just wanted to mention Dudley Goff. Dudley waved there. He showed up. Dudley, you weren't here, but Kathy talked about you and told everybody who you were and about the collection that has now been donated through Phil and you officially. And so just wanted you to know that it'll be on the recording, Dudley. But Dudley, I guess, would have to be our not only oldest Branch Davidian, meaning I'm not going to guess a man's age, but he's a mature human being. And but he goes back to, he knew Victor Hadoff, and we spent many hours hearing his stories, and it's amazing. And he sought me out because he had kept quiet all those years, and we met in Charlotte, and he decided to, come forward and say, yes, I was with that group that you all seem to hate, and let's tell the true story of people seeking God and a good conscience and so forth. So I just wanted to mention Dudley's here. He can speak for himself, but we don't have a lot of time, and I didn't want him to get overlooked.
Here I am muted, saying to Dudley that he has to unmute. Dudley, you have to unmute. Yeah, there you go.
I unmuted. Am I unmuted now? You can hear me?
You're unmuted.
Thank you, James, very much. You've become a real good friend. And yes, it took some sorting you out, but I think it was great. And we sort of tied the tragedy that you're celebrating right now to what was even prior to that, at Old Mount Carmel, which I was a part. I'll be 94 in July 2nd. So I go way back there. Yeah. And we're still hanging in, but I've been in touch with Kathy also, and Bill Arnold, and some of the interviews of what it was like in the past, and some old footage and information that's not available anywhere else. We have that now. In the interview, Dave, that we had with you, Dave Thibodeau, a fantastic interview with Pat Shawn and all Jeremiah films. Nothing ever materialized on what we were wanting to put together as a documentary entitled Bullets Over Waco. Things happened between Jeremiah Films and the federal government, who slapped him with a $58 million lawsuit because of the Clinton Chronicles, and that sort of stopped things in its tracks. But for what purpose, I don't know. Anyway, God bless all of you guys, survivors. It's neat meeting with you this morning. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
We'll try to get to questions after because we're running out of time here. So after we read all the names, and then I'll have a list of names of people that have died post April 19th. We're going to read that list as well, as Clive always did and kept that together. I almost couldn't find it. I was frantic last night, but we found it, so that's good. Well, I'd like to just end with Dana real quick. It looks like you got your hand up, Dana, and then we'll get to the names.
No, I just wanted to talk about connection, because this is why I am here. I have felt a connect. Yes, I've been a part of the group from a long time ago, but the reason I keep coming back is the connection that I've built to reconnect with those of you that I was with 30 something years ago, and all of the people that I've met in the just sometimes in the 30th anniversary, I met so many more people. I wanted to thank them for keeping the memory alive as well, and for showing me that this is still an important thing in my life. In a way, I've moved on and lived my life, but in a way, this is part of who I am. And that connection really means so much to me. To be able to be here amid so many people it's an amazing thing. And talking about the energy, it's a wonderful place to be. So I wanted to thank you, David, for keeping this going, and Kevin and Heather and Kat, and seeing all of you is just, it does my heart so much good. So thank you. And to all the scholars, you guys are amazing. I look up to you so much. So thank you so much for all you've done. That's all.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Dana.
Dana.
So we're going to get to the slideshow presentation now, the reading of the names. It is 12. Is it 12:06? Wait a second. 12:04. 12:04. Your time. This could be fun, and this could not be fun. We're going to see what happens here with the technology, because I am on Zoom. Kathy Wessinger is going to be doing the slideshow presentation. I'm going to be reading the slides, and then Kevin Jones is going to be ringing the bell, which I won't be able to hear. Awesome. So what we're going to do is, when they go to the next slide, then I will read that. I will just assume that the bell has gone off. Okay. The April 19th annual memorial for those who died at Mount Carmel Center, Waco, Texas, April 19th, 1993. This is the 32nd year memorial. I'd like to take a special thanks for Matt Whitmore for all he has done over the years, putting this together, helping us every year. Between Kathy Wessinger and Matt Whitmore, you guys have been so instrumental in these memorials. And I can guarantee you're on a lot of people's blessings list here in this group. You're definitely on mine. Thank you guys so much. And Matt, I've been thinking about you quite a bit since last year. I know that you had some issues with you've had a lot of issues with your job, and just God bless you for everything. It's you've been wonderful to us. So the first name we have is Winston Blake. I remember Winston very, very fondly. Winston came from England, British, age 28 when he died. On February 28th, 1993, he was one of the first of the people that were killed during the BATF raid. He was in his room. I discovered his body laying there, mixing with water. Blood was mixing with the water that was coming through the water tank that had been shot out, well, I believe to have been shot out by the helicopters, but nonetheless, there were bullet holes in the water tank, and the water was pouring into the room. And as he was laying there, so he died February 20th, 93, engaged to Beverly Elliott, who was killed on April 19th. Again, believe he was shot from the helicopter fire into his room. Listen, I just want to say this real quick. I'm going to go off on a little side tangent here. There's a lot of controversy about the helicopter attacks. And I know basically every ATF agent claims that none of the helicopters fired into the building. But recently I saw a clip of Kathryn Madison and her testimony that she gave very close to after the raid. It was within the first year or so. She did an interview and she watched the helicopters come in and shoot into David Koresh's room. And I just wanted to say that I watched that recently, and it brought home how people did witness the helicopter shooting at the building, including Kevin Whitecliffe, who told me directly within a half hour after everything that the helicopters came in shooting. So I just want to say that. So he was buried in the siege, during the siege in the storm shelter that was aside from the building. He was called the Gentle Giant by his friends, and he and Derek Lovelock were roommates. Next slide is Peter Gent, Australian, age 24. He died February 28th, 1993, on that first day of the ATF attack. He was shot on top of the water tower, many believe from a helicopter. His twin sister, Nicole, was killed on April 19th. I do want to say that in the last couple of years, I spoke to an ATF agent that was there who claims that it was his friend who shot Peter Gent from the ground. That's his claim. I don't know. He told me that directly. Just thought I should throw that out there for the sake of truth. Of course, that being his truth. Anyways, twin sister Nicole, Peter Gent's twin sister Nicole, was killed on April 19th. He was buried across the front driveway outside during the siege. He was buried by Greg Summers, who buried Peter out front and then lined the dogs up to 5 Alaskan Malamutes so that people could see what they did to the dogs the first day they came in shooting. But right now we remember Peter Gent, age 24. Peter J. Hipsman was an American, age 28 when he died on February 28th, 1993. He was, of course, one of the first to die during the siege, the ATF attack. I believe he was shot through his side. He may have been shot in a couple places. He was from Hawaii, shot above the gym on the dog run, and he was buried during the siege in the storm shelter as well. That's where most of them were buried, other than Peter Gent. Peter J. Hipsman, we remember you today. He died February 28th, 1993. Perry D. Jones, American, age 64. He died also on February 28th, 1993. He was at the front door with David Koresh. A lot of the people that were at the front door told me the story. Perry was there. David Koresh went to the door. He had one part of the door, the steel door in his hand. The other, he had his hand held out. And he said, "Hold on, there's women, children here. Let's talk about this." The door flew back in his hand from the velocity of bullets hitting it. He slammed the door. He fell back, and Perry Jones got hit in the stomach and went down screaming. Father of Rachel Howell Koresh, David Jones, and Michelle Jones, who were killed on April 19th. My grandfather, of course, to Kevin and Heather. He was buried during the siege in the storm shelter and buried in Waco, Texas. Michael Schroeder, American, age 29, died on February 28th, 1993. Michael wasn't in the original BATF attack. He was staying in a place we had called the Mag Bag down several miles away from Mount Carmel. He was from Florida. and he was killed trying to return to Mount Carmel, trying to get to his children and his wife, Kat. He was shot by ATF agents. Father of one stepson and 3 stepchildren. Father of 1 son and 3 stepchildren. His wife, Kathy, exited Mount Carmel during the siege. Michael, yeah, you know, there's a lot of, I just want to talk real quickly about that. They say that there was a gunfight, but the autopsy report found that Michael died of he had several bullet wounds, but the one that killed him was a close shot to the back of his head, execution style. So he was a revenge killing as far as we're concerned by the ATF. Jadine Wendell was an American. She was age 34 when she died on February 28th, 1993. Jadine was from Hawaii. She was with a group out there with Paul Fata, Dana. She's wife of Mark Wendell, mother of 4 children sent out during the siege. She was shot in her 2nd floor bedroom, and she was buried during the siege in the storm shelter, and then ultimately buried in Honolulu, Hawaii, where she was from. Jadine Wendell. We're also going to honor the 4 BATF agents who died that day at Mount Carmel, as they were there as well and died on that land. Conway LeBlue is American, ATF agent, age 30, died on February 28th, 1993. Todd McKeon, American, ATF agent, age 28, died on February 28th, 1993. Robert Williams, an American ATF agent. He was age 26, died on February 28th, 1993. Steve Willis, American ATF agent. He was age 32. He also died on February 28th, 1993. Okay, those are the people that died on the first day. Now we're going to get to the April 19th segment of people that lived in Mount Carmel. Kathy Andrade, she was American. She was age 24. Died on April 19th, 1993 of Argentinian background. Her baby Chanel and sister Jennifer were also killed on April 19th, 1993 during the fire. Sorry, I know that we rang the bell for Kathy, but I have a story I want to tell. Early on, when I first got there, I was talking to people about this message. It was called The Message. And I said, why are you here? I'm like, you're a beautiful young lady. What are you doing here learning the 7 seals? Why? What is it? And she said that she'd been, like myself, she had been looking for truth her whole life. And she said that when she met David and started to learn these things, she wanted to know what to do, if she was going to join the group or not, what turn was her life going to take. And she told me right to my face that she was driving down the freeway 60 miles an hour, whatever it was, and that she said, God, I need a sign. If you want me to join this group, I require a sign. At that moment, she said her car flipped over on the freeway, just flipped over. No reason. She didn't hit a ramp or anything like that. Her car just flipped over, and she survived it. Got out and said, okay, there's my message, and joined the group after. And that story absolutely blew me away. And I chose not to ask God for a sign after hearing that story from Kathy, but it always made an impression on me. And then Kathy also asked the best questions in the studies. Kathy's questions were so deep that it would take David to a different place, and we would go out of this universe with the answers to her questions. She's, I think, the most astute of all of the people studying scripture at Mount Carmel. She impressed me the most. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. Chanel Andrade, Kathy's child, American, age 1, died on April 19th, 1993. Jennifer Andrade, Kathy's sister. Jennifer was an American, age 19, died on April 19th, 1993. Her sister, Kathy, was killed as well as April 19th. She once brought, when she first came to Mount Carmel, she wanted to make sure that she could still watch, if she asked if it would be okay if we watched Disney movies. So she brought a suitcase full of Disney movies to Mount Carmel so she'd have something to watch, which I thought was particularly sweet. Jennifer Andrade. Ulrich George Bennett. Well, that's a good picture. I don't think we had a picture in the last few years. That's excellent. British, age 35, died on the 19th, 93. He supervised some of the construction of Mount Carmel. I remember he was responsible for putting in the foundation that the whole building ended up being built upon. The gym and the swimming pool, well, everyone called him Rick. He came to Texas to meet David Koresh with about 10 people from Britain, including Derek Lovelock. So they came in a big group. He was a very interesting individual, very intelligent. Susan Benta, British, age 31, died on the 19th, 93. She was of Jamaican descent, age 30. Oh, it says age 30 on the stone. So I guess we'll go with 30. There's a correction for next year. Susan Benta. Mary Jean Borst, American. She was age 49, died on April 19th, 93. She heard David speak in Northern California with Trudy Myers and Ophelia Santoyo. She joined David's group in the Palestine, Texas era. That's when they were off Mount Carmel and they lived in another place in Texas. In the middle of the woods, folks. Kind of glad I missed that experience. That looked pretty bare to me. I don't like the great outdoors. It's itchy. Her son, Brad, later became a policeman in Colorado. I remember Brad very fondly. Every time the band would play, Brad would be in the front seat watching. I always liked that kid. And I'm glad to see that he went on to accomplish things in life and be a good citizen. He was a very, very good guy. I always liked Brad, and I'm glad that he's gone on to better things. Mary Jean Borst. Pablo Cohen, Israeli. Of course, we heard his letter to his mother earlier. He was age 28. He died on April 19th, 1993. Great musician. It was a joy to play with Pablo. He was born in Argentina. His family cherished music and intellectual pursuits. As we can even tell by his letter to his mother, it was very detailed, with some very interesting phrases and use of language, I thought. Immersed himself in music from age 9. He met David in the old city, Jerusalem, in 1990. He was the Hebrew translator in the Bible studies whenever there was a question on any word in the scripture, we'd go to the Hebrew. The Hebrew, the words are masculine, feminine, and neutral. So they actually have there's a gender behind a lot of the words, which kind of gives the language a bit more color, a bit more flavor. And Pablo was very important in pointing this out. So we would see on a kind of a deeper level what each word meant, or what a phrase meant from the kind of a Jewish Hebrew perspective. So very important aspect of the group, and David called on him often to help us clarify words. Pablo Cohen. Beady. Abendawalo Davies. I'm pretty sure I pronounced that correctly. Abendawalo was British. He was age 30, died April 19th, 1993. From Nigeria. We called them Dabo. It was Dabo Davis. Very quiet and a deep thinker that he was. He was very quiet. But like most of the people that were at Mount Carmel, they were a lot more intellectual than people want to give them credit for. I can tell you that. Some of the most intelligent people I ever knew was in that group. Anyway, that's to Dabo. Sherry E. Doyle was American, age 18, when she died on April 19th, 1993. It was Clive Doyle's youngest daughter. Spent much of the siege in the chapel with Clive and Marjorie Thomas. And she, she was a little light in Mount Carmel. Everyone loved Sherry. Beautiful smile, beautiful child, beautiful person. Very, very special. Yeah, Sherry Doyle. Beverly Elliott. She's British. She was age 30 when she died on April 19th. Beverly was engaged to Winston Blake, who was killed on February 28th during the initial BATF attack. Beverly died during the fire. Doris Fagan, British. She was age 60. Doris died on April 19th, 93. Her son Livingston was the last one negotiated out of the residence during the siege. Livingston went to prison for some time, had probably the hardest time of it, and he's out now, and he writes about the Seven Seals and his experience. He definitely writes more of the spiritual aspect of Mount Carmel, or I should say that the scripture. But Doris Fagan, we remember. Yvette Fagan, British, age 32. She also died on April 19th, 93, mother of 2 children sent out during the siege. Mother-in-law to Doris, who was killed on April 19th. And her husband, Livingston, was the last one negotiated at the residences we spoke of before. Lisa Marie Ferris, American, age 24, died April 19th, 1993. It's kind of hard not to smile when I see Lisa's face, because she was such a free and wheeling spirit, if you will. Definitely, like me, the last person I would ever have expected to be at a place like Mount Carmel, studying the Bible of all things. I think Lisa and I both just belonged in Hollywood somewhere, playing in some band at some seedy joint. But Lisa was always fun to talk to. She just always had such a great personality and was positive. She met David, of course, at a music store in California. And she's very rock and roll, as you can tell by the leather jacket. That was Lisa. She once looked at David and asked him, "Don't you believe in your own message?" Sorry, Kevin, you ring the bell now. I think I probably messed that up.
That's good.
And again, to all you out there in Zoom land, a bell is being rung. We just can't hear it because the way that the bell is loud and it cuts out the microphone there. That's why you can't hear it on the Zoom call, just so you all know what's happening. But it's being rung. Raymond Friesen, Canadian individual, age 76. He died on April 19th. He was previously a Mennonite, and he married to Tilly Friesen. We'll tell a little story about Tilly coming up here. Both became Branch Davidians, and Raymond was one of several people who came in the chapel area on April 19th when the fire started. He was in the area that Jamie Casillo and I and Clive Doyle came out of. For some reason, Raymond didn't make it out behind us. I wish that he would have. His wife, Tilly, she used to make this chloroform. She used to go and get grass from the property of Mount Carmel, and she'd make a little chloroform shot that she would insist you drink because it was so good for you. So it was literally drinking a glass of grass juice. And apparently it was really good for you. I could never stand the taste, but I guess I felt better after doing it. She was one of a kind. That's Raymond Friesen. Sandra Hardile, British, age 27, died on April 19th, 93, of Jamaican descent. Sandra. Zilla Henry, age 55. She was from Great Britain. Also died on April 19th, 93. She came with her 5 young adult children to Mount Carmel in 92. They were all died on April 19th. Her husband, Sam Henry, attempted to persuade his family members to return to Manchester. He was never part of the group. He lived in England, stayed there. He died in 2023 at the age of 83. Sam Henry did. But today we remember Zilla Henry, who died at Mount Carmel. Diana Henry, British, died age 28 on April 1993. And this is one of the daughters of Zilla Henry. And Diana's 4 siblings were killed on April 19th as well. Diana Henry. Stephen Henry, British, age 26, died on April 19th. Mother was Zilla Henry, and Stephen's 4 siblings were all killed on April 19th. She's a very polite and well-mannered young man. He absolutely was. All of the Henrys were very articulate individuals, very smart, very sharp people. Paulina Henry, British, age 24. She died on April 19th, 1993. She was one of the Henrys. Mother Zilla Henry, Paulina's 4 siblings were all killed on April 19th. And she believed very strongly in her religious convictions, and nothing was going to tear her away. Phillip Henry, age 22, Great Britain, also died on April 19th, 1993. His mother was Zilla Henry. Philip's 4 siblings were also killed on April 19th. He's a very polite, well-mannered young man, very intelligent like all of the Henrys. Always a pleasure to talk to. We were talking about sincerity earlier. James Tabor mentioned sincerity, and That was the Henry family, incredibly deep and sincere people. Vanessa Henry, one of the last here of the children. British, age 19, when she died on April 1993. Her mother, Zilla Henry, and Vanessa's 4 siblings were all killed on April 19th. She was the youngest of the Henry children. She always had a smile on her face. Novelette Sinclair Hipsman, Canadian. She was age 36. Died on April 19th, 1993. She's from Montreal, spoke French, met Clive Doyle in 1981 in Canada. She studied with Lois Roden, and she was a close friend with and worked cleaning jobs with Bonnie Haldeman. That's David Koresh's mother, Bonnie. They were very close. So was Dana. There's my boy, Floyd Houtman. American, age 61, died on April 19th, 1993. Floyd came from New Bedford, Massachusetts with 2 busloads of people. He was very close friends with Stan Silva. They were actually inseparable. They were always together, those two. He was in the chapel on April 19th, and just Floyd was an awesome presence. He used to be a boxer, a very big individual, very intimidating, but his mannerisms were that of a big kid. You're like, oh, hey, brother, how you doing, brother? Love you. He's always saying, I love you, brother. Very positive individual, someone you definitely, if I had wanted to be a boxer, I would definitely want this guy to train me. But just the nicest guy in the world. Intimidating without being intimidating. It's kind of hard to explain. You just had to know him. Floyd Houtman, we remember you. Miss Sherry Jewell was American. She was age 43 when she died on April 19th, 1993. Sherry's from Hawaii. She came in with Paul Fett and Dana and the whole group there from Hawaii. She loved surfing and running. She taught K-12, was the dean of a business college, sang, taught Sabbath school for the youth at Diamond Head SDA Church. Her daughter, Kiri, went to live with her father in Michigan in 1992. Sherry Jewell. David M. Jones, American, age 38, died on April 19th, 1993. He's the eldest son of Perry and Mary Bell Jones. Perry, of course, was killed on February 28th by the BATF. Dave was the mailman who learned of the impending raid on February 28th. His sisters, Rachel and Michelle, and their children were also killed on the 19th. David was a wonderful father to Mark, Kevin, and Heather, who were all negotiated out during the siege. And, you know, he was a very special individual, David Jones. I miss him dearly. I liked talking to him. I loved having him around. I know that the Jones kids are, you know, David is on their mind every single day. As long as Kevin is alive and Heather is alive and Mark, David Jones will always be remembered very fondly. And he will always be prayed for and loved. Michelle Jones, American, age 18. Michelle died on April 19th, 1993. She's the daughter of Perry Jones, who was killed on February 28th. Her mother, Maribel Jones, was not at Mount Carmel during the siege. She lived in a separate property. Sister of Rachel Howell Koresh and David Jones, who died on April 19th. Michelle's 3 children also died on April 19th. Serenity and Cheek and Little One. Michelle. Serenity C. Jones, age 4, American. Serenity died on April 19th, 1993. Died with her mother, Michelle, believe in the vault. She was in the concrete structure with her mother. We remember you, Serenity. Chica Jones, age 22 months, died in April 1993. Died with her mother, Michelle, and the twin of little one, Jones, as well. Chica. Little one Jones, American, age 22 months, died on April 19th, 1993, with her mother, Michelle Jones, and her twin, Chica Jones. David Koresh, American, age 33, died on April 19th, 93. His original name was Vernon Howell. He visited Mount Carmel in 1981 to study under Lois Roden. He wanted to serve a prophet. That's what he said. Became the leader of the Davidians from 84 to 93. He was a musician, a mechanic, a carpenter, and of course taught the Seven Seals. Rachel Howell Koresh, American, age 24, died on April 19th, 1993. She was the daughter of Perry and Maribel Jones, legal wife of David Koresh, sister of David and Michelle Jones, who were also killed on April 19th. Rachel's 3 children also died on April 19th as well. Cyrus Howell, American, age 8. He died on April 19th, 1993. It was, of course, David Koresh's firstborn, the oldest child of David and Rachel. His 2 younger sisters were also killed on April 19th. Excuse me. Star Howell, American, age 6. Star died on April 19th, 1993. She was the mother of Rachel Howard. Her mother was Rachel Howell Koresh, and her brother and sister were both killed on April 19th as well. Bobby Lane Koresh, American, age 2. She died on April 19th. Her mother, Rachel Howell Koresh, and her brother and sister were also killed on April 19th. Jeffrey Little, American, age 32. He died on April 19th, 93. It's kind of hard to look at Jeffrey Little's smile and not smile yourself. He had that kind of, even in his pictures, he's got that kind of affection on you. You know, you just can't. I don't know, if you knew him, you'd be smiling too. He was from Michigan. He was Paul Fata's roommate in Hawaii.
Correction, David.
Okay.
Greg Summers and Peter Hipsman were the roommates.
Okay, we will definitely have to change that for next year. Let's
Yeah.
make a note of that, shall we? Thanks.
But great picture.
Yeah, it is a great picture. So what Dana said there. Not Paul Fata's roommate. Okay. Greg Summers. Computer expert. He lived with, there it is. Lived with Greg Summers in Hawaii. Was almost shot on February 28th. I'm not quite sure what that means. But he always had a smile on his face. Apparently, anyway, he was almost shot on February 28th. He did always have a smile on his face, as Dana attested to earlier. A very happy individual. Jeff Little. Nicole E. Gent Little, Australian. Age 24, died on April 19th, 93. Her twin brother, Peter Gent, was killed on February 28th. Married to Jeff Little, who was killed on April 19th. Mother of Dalen and Pages, who died on April 19th. Nicole's unborn baby also died on April 19th. Dalen L. Gent, American, he was age 3. died on April 19th, 93, with his mother, Nicole Lee Gent Little, in April 19th. Dalen's two siblings were also killed on that day. Pages Gent, American, age 1, died on the 19th of April, 93. Died with her mother, Nicole Gent Little, on April 19th, and Page's two siblings were also killed on that same day. Okay, unborn baby Gent American died on April 19th, 93. Mother, of course, is Nicole Gent. Livingstone Malcolm. Stone, we called him Stone. British, age 26, died on April 19th, 93. He was a cousin to musician Bob Marley, the famous Rastafarian. Bob Marley and the Wailers. He was one of his cousins. I saw the picture myself. One of the 10 people who died in the chapel on April 19th. He had a very mild-mannered personality. Never complained. He was a very positive individual, actually, Stone. I always liked hanging out with Stone. He always made you feel good. He's a really good guy. Livingston Malcolm, we remember. Diane Martin, British, age 41. April 19th, 93, she died. Had traveled to Texas several times to study with David. She came over more than once to learn the Seven Seals and was there during the siege. Douglas Wayne Martin, American, age 42. Died on April 19th, 1993. Married to Sheila, who exited during the siege. Had 7 children. 4 were killed on April 19th. He's the one that called 911 during the BATF attack. During the initial BATF raid, and asked them to call off the raid. He negotiated the ceasefire almost immediately. He was on the phone trying to negotiate that. And despite that, they still shot at us for over 40 minutes while he was trying to negotiate a ceasefire. Harvard-educated attorney and law school librarian. He had a practice in Waco, and he did very, very well there. He was very well liked in town. Many people came to his defense during the siege. Wayne Joseph Martin, American, age 20, died on April 19th, 1993, son of Douglas Wayne and Sheila Martin. 3 siblings and the father were all killed on April 19th. He loved to read. He was reading the Bible out loud by age 5. He got excellent grades in school. Very, very smart. Young Wayne was a very, very brilliant young man. Anita Marie Martin, age 18, American, died on April 19th, 93. Eldest daughter of Douglas Wayne and Sheila. 3 siblings and father were all killed on the 19th. She was best friends with Sherry Doyle. And she also got excellent grades in school, as did all of the Martin kids. Sheila Renee Martin, age 15, died on April 19th, 93. Daughter of Douglas Wayne and Sheila, she was called Sheila Jr. 3 siblings and father were killed on April 19th. She liked to sing and cook. She and her siblings listened to the Bible studies together. Lisa Marie Martin, American, age 13, died on April 19th. Daughter of Douglas Wayne and Sheila. 3 siblings and father were all killed on April 19th. In school, she was impressed with a presentation by KWTX-TV weatherman Rusty Garrett. Her mother wrote a letter to him letting him know. He subsequently mentioned Lisa in live remarks on television. I did not know that story. John Mark McBean, British, age 27. He died on April 19th, 1993. His mother and sisters knew most of the British people at Mount Carmel, very studious about the Bible. He gave Bible studies in Manchester. His sister Janet McBean was in California with a few other Davidians in 1993 when everything happened. John McBean. Bernadette Mombelli, British, age 31, also died April 19th, 1993. She was friends with John Mark McBean's family. They were very close. Bernadette. Rosemary Morrison, British, age 29. Died on the 19th of April. She was from Manchester, England. Worshipped the Old Trafford Seventh-day Adventist Church in Manchester. Mother of Melissa, who was also killed on April 19th. She's buried in Waco at the gravesite there where many of them were buried. Melissa Morrison, British, age 6. Died on April 19th. Died with her mother Rosemary on the 19th and also buried in Waco. Sonia Murray, British, age 29, died on April 19th, 93. Sonia Murray, we remember. Teresa Nobrega, British, age 48, died on April 19th, of Portuguese descent. Her daughter Natalie negotiated out during the siege. Teresa's husband kept in touch with Clive Doyle throughout the years. James L. Riddle, American, age 32. Jimmy Riddle, we called him. Died on April 19th, 1993, from North Carolina. Very good friends with Clive Doyle and Bonnie Haldeman. Sister Rita Riddle came out during the siege. She was there and was negotiated out. Niece Misty Ferguson was badly burned in the fire, but survived. She's one of the fire survivors. Juliet Santoyo, American, she was 30. Juliet was 30 when she died on April 19th, 93. Mexican descent, daughter of Ophelia Santoyo, who exited during the siege. Her 5 children also died on April 19th. Audrey M. Martinez, American, age 13. Her mother was Juliet Santoyo, was killed on April 19th. Her 4 siblings were also killed on April 19th. Abigail Martinez, age 11, died on April 19th. Mother was Juliet Santoyo, who was killed on April 19th, and her 4 siblings also were killed on that day. We remember Joseph S. Martinez, age 8, died on April 19th. Mother was Juliet. 4 siblings were also killed on April 19th. He was friends with Cyrus Howell and Daniel Martin. Daniel survived. Isaiah Barrios, age 4. Mother was Juliet Santoyo, who was killed on April 19th as well, with his 4 siblings. Isaiah Barrios, Taco. Kid's mom. Crystal Barrios, American. She was age 3, died on April 19th, 93. Was one of Juliet's children. 4 siblings were also killed on the same day. She was good friends with Kimberly Martin. Kimberly, of course, survived. Rebecca Sayapia. I know I am saying that wrong, and I apologize, guys. This cold has done me in. She was from New Zealand, age 24, died on April 19th. Of Samoan descent, her sister Grace and Poya lived with David's group in Palestine, Texas, period, much earlier. Rebecca. Steve Schneider, American. He was age 43, died on April 19th. Steve was from Wisconsin. He met Koresh in Hawaii with the SDA group out there, Seventh-day Adventist. Member of the Diamond Head Seventh-day Adventist Church. Religious studies major at the University of Hawaii. Joined David's group during the Palestinian Texas period and negotiated with agents during the siege. He was considered David's right-hand man. He was always there in a business deal. He was always negotiating for the best deal for the group that he could possibly get. Judith Schneider, age 41, died on April 19th as well. She was wounded in the finger and the hand on February 28th. Wife of Steve and mother of Mina, who both died on April 19th. Mina Schneider, American, age 2, died on April 19th with their mother, Judith Schneider, in the concrete structure. Clifford Sellers, Cliff, we call him. British, age 33. He was a very talented artist, painted all the artwork on David's guitars and some of the motorcycles. I think he's the one that came up with the fiery flying serpent on the back of the David Koresh God Rock shirts. He was born in Hong Kong. His father was in the military. Drew new religious charts during the siege and painted the messages on the sheets that were put out of the windows during the siege as well. It's our little way to try to communicate with the press while we were cut off. Scott Shinobi, Scott Kojiaro Shinobi, American, age 35. Japanese American, worked for a company in Hawaii that transported disabled people. His father once came to Waco in Mount Carmel to thank David Koresh for turning his son's life around. Married to Floresita, father to Crystal and Angelica, who were sent out during the siege. Floresita Shinobi, age 34. That smile, huh? Filipino-American. She was married to Scott. Mother to Crystal and Angelica, who were the first children to be sent out after the BATF raid.
Well, you know, Heather found some pill bottles at the property yesterday that have CETA handwritten on them.
Wow, I didn't know that. That sounds like something that should be preserved, I'd say.
I'm sure she took them and did something with them.
Gregory A. Summers, American, age 28, from New York. He's married to Aisha Garfus. Worked with Judy Schneider when he met David. Friends with Peter Hipsman. Peter and Greg had a comedy routine they used to perform for the people. You know, we'd have what David would call beer busts, and they do pretty funny stuff. They were They were quite a team. Greg was the one, of course, that buried Peter Judd across the street and then lined the dogs up for the cameras to see. Remember Greg Summers. Aisha Gaiarfis Summers, Australian, age 17. Hungarian descent, she came to Texas with her brother Oliver, who exited during the siege. And he lives back in Australia. Mother of Startle, an unborn baby who died on April 19th, 1993. Startle Summers, age 1, died April 19th with her mother Aisha. Unborn baby, Gaiarfis Summers, April 19th, 93. Lorraine Sylvia, age 40. Born in England, but from New Bedford, Massachusetts. Called Larry. Everyone called her Larry. Good friends with Sheila Martin. She was married to Stan Silva. Her son Joshua was sent out during the siege. Lorraine died with her 2 daughters, Rachel and Hollywood. Rachel Sylvia, American, age 12. Died with her mother, Lorraine Sylvia, on April 19th, 1993. Hollywood Sylvia, age 1. Died with her mother, Lorraine Sylvia, April 19th, 1993. Margarita Vega, age 47. She was born in Hong Kong, came to Texas from Hawaii, owned a bakery in Hawaii. She was married to Neil Vega, who also died on April 19th. Sent daughter Joanne out during the siege. She's buried in Greater Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada now. Neil Vega, American, age 38. Samoan descent, he was born in America when his parents were traveling. He played guitar in David Koresh's band. That must have been before my time. Buried in Auckland, New Zealand. Neil Vega. Sorry if I cut the bell off there, guys. It's weird when you can't hear it. Mark Wendell, age 40, worked for several school districts in California. Head deacon at Diamond Head Seventh-day Adventist Church. Married to J. Dean, who was killed on February 28th. The father of 4 children who were sent out during the siege. That looks like it's the end of the slideshow presentation. So, next we have a reading of names, friends and supporters that are no longer with us. But before I go into that, I just want to ask if any of the survivors have anything they want to say about the slideshow presentation that we just saw. There might be maybe Dana or Kat, if you guys have anything at all. If not, we can move on, but I wanted to give you the opportunity. Kevin, you all good?
I have something, David. Floracita's youngest child, pronounce her name Angelica. That is how Sita pronounced it.
Angelica.
Angelica.
Very good.
That's all.
Can somebody say something? I need to take just a 2-minute break before I go on with this next section. So who's winded here? Let's see. Should I pick on Dana again? Dana, say something, would you?
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll tell you what. Does anyone have any questions that any of us can answer? Well,
Hi, I'm here. I'm Kelly. I'm nobody, but since everybody needs a break, I just want to chime in and say thank you for still doing this after all these years. I've been a follower for a really long time. I just find it truly disappointing and disheartening what happened there. And I think I still follow because I believe that kind of behavior could still happen. And people are just disillusioned that these things don't happen. Again, I don't have much to say, but I hope I gave somebody a break.
thank you, Kelly. No, I truly appreciate that I've been able to reconnect with this group. I've been mostly out of touch for a long time until probably the pandemic. I heard there was a Zoom meeting, and that's when I found out that there were memorials every year. And I really appreciate the welcome that I received back into the community. It was like coming home in a way. So thank you all. I really, I'm grateful to have you back in my life.
I'm grateful for you.
Yeah, I think I have to say that, Dana, we're the lucky ones to have you back in our lives.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
You know, it's sad listening to everybody and what they have to say, and yet at the same time, very encouraging. What a time in the lives of all of you. It's really something. Yeah. And then when you show Perry Jones, who was a classmate of mine at the Davidic Levitical Institute at Old Mount Carmel, and then Mary Bell, his wife. I knew Mary Bell when my brother and I would pick her up and her mother in California in 1944 and take them to the Davidian meetings there. And so I'm very close with Mary Bell and with Perry and the whole scenario there. It brings back some good memories, and then of course not so good memories. But I want to just say to all of you, as one of the old timers there on Old Mount Carmel, God bless you, continue to bless you, maintain your courage and your contact with our Father in heaven. And I say God bless you all. Thanks for allowing me to be a part of this this today. Wow. This Zoom.
Thank you, Dudley.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, and all you've done too. You support us with a lot of information, and I know you've given a lot to the museums, a lot of Davidian history that goes way, way back, long before my time, and all that stuff is, you know, very valuable. It's going to a good place.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that we just we have a pair of Cyrus's boots that have been donated to the Helen Taylor Museum. So when they open up, that'll be one of the displays there, and I think that's a pretty awesome thing to have, that little boy's boots that'll be on display, and I'm glad that it's going to end up there.
At the museum.
Yes, at the museum, correct.
Yeah, good deal. Yeah.
So yeah, again, I'm going to get to reading the friends of the support. We have a lot of friends over the years that supported us that are no longer with us. We're going to read some of their names, including some of the survivors who are you know, have passed since all of this. But again, I want to just take another second and thank everyone for everything they've done, particularly KWTX-TV for allowing us to do this at their studio. I can't thank you all enough for that, guys. Thank you so much. We have Valerie Parker. We mentioned all these names earlier, and always the Helen Taylor Museum of Waco has just been wonderful to us throughout the years, letting us host all the memorials there until they did the refurbishment. They're in the process now. But we did the special thanks early, so now I want to read the friends and supporters of those that are no longer with us. And I'm going to start off every year with Clive Doyle. 2023 is when we lost Clive. Now, I've talked to quite a few people on the ground. We got a friend Eli. I got some, many friends that live in Waco. And with many of the factions of friends and supporters, you notice many of them aren't here. There's quite a bit of rifts between people, especially, most of you know about the drama at Mount Carmel with a guy named Charlie and his family. And we're not going to rehash or talk about any of that because that would just take away from the importance of the day. But one thing that I've learned, and Eli and I had a conversation about this, and I think everybody knows that Clive Doyle was the glue that held this community together all these years, doing the memorials. And without him, there is definitely, there's a lot of rifts. There's a lot of what I call nonsense that I wish weren't happening between the people, because it's all about something bigger. And to make anything petty, to talk about other people within the community, I think we're supposed to be above that. And I hope, maybe listen to these words and in the future going forward this next year, try to treat each other better. Remember that we're all brothers and sisters in this journey, no matter what you believe, no matter what your faith is, no matter what your color is. We're all of the same spirit. We are the spirit of light. And so to all my brothers and sisters who have the spirit of light, let's try to remember that moving forward when you maybe don't like someone or someone disagrees with you, but they are sincere and you know that they're in this community of sincerity. Let's try to forgive them. And let's try to move on and get past the petty differences. Just remember, we're beings of light here, guys. We're supposed to be a little better. We're supposed to try a little harder. And anyone responsible with this group understands something called the withering experience. I have many conversations with Eli about this. But it's almost like and you don't have to believe like I do. Like, I don't even know what I believe anymore. I think there's many people, the older we get, the more we don't understand how things work. I used to think I knew it all. I know nothing. I'm 56. I don't know a damn thing. I thought I knew it all. None of it makes any sense, man. All I know is there's an energy and it's important, and it has to do with another place, another time. It has to do with us gaining an experience and treating your fellow man like they were God. That's the best way I can put it. Treat your fellow person like they were God and be nice to them, because they might be and you don't know it. So as Ozzy Osbourne said, you meet a lot of people on the ladder of success on the way up. Don't screw them, because you meet the same people on the way back down. Let's treat people a little bit better. Let's try to make that our goal. So speaking of gold, Clive Doyle was the glue. He held this community together, and he is definitely, I appreciate him more every day, and I understand more of what his role was every day. And what a guy, huh? Clive was just that self-spoken guy who had every reason in the world to be angry, and he was just always even-keeled, even-tempered. I so wish I could have been more like Clive Doyle. So I just wanted to take a minute and remember Clive again and say he's at the top of the list. We got Marie Helen Taylor, who died on January 2022. Who again has been a great supporter, allowing us to have the memorials for so many years at the museum there, and have the exhibit. And I just can't thank them enough for everything they've done over the years. Stephen Kreider Benjamin, he died in 2021, COVID. Steve's no longer with us. Jamie Casillo, who was one of the 9 fire survivors who ended up going to jail for several years. He got out. I was out for a few years and died of he had a disease, and just so Jamie's gone. It's like that. You never know. He's also one of the people that was recorded with Dudley Goff through the Jeremiah films. We have an early recording of Jamie giving his testimony. I've made there's some clips available out there. We also remember Kevin Whitecliffe. Kevin was one of the 9 fire survivors. I think he came out during the siege, actually. He died in 2018. So Kevin Whitecliffe is no longer with us. We remember Kathryn Madison. was one of the survivors that came out, was negotiated out during the siege. One of the older women that they put in 5-point shackles and the bright orange jumpsuit, and so why don't you all come out? Well, maybe because you're treating our senior citizens like they're criminals and putting them in 5-point shackles. Why would we want to come out to that? Kathryn Madison, she was a firebrand. If anyone knew her, she'd tell you a thing or two, that's for sure. She always gave people a piece to her mind. No one was going to tell her that the helicopters didn't fire into that building that day. No one. Kathryn Madison, 2009. She was like a nice viper. I love Kathryn. She didn't put up with any crap. Jamie Martin, he died in 1998. He was, of course, the son of Sheila and Wayne, the disabled child of theirs. We remember Wyla Lucas, who died in 2017. Wyla was a very, very good friend of the community. Boy, I met them. They used to live in Henderson, Nevada. I used to go and visit them quite a bit. And Wyla, I have many of her VHS tapes. She recorded just everything, anything that was on C-SPAN or anything she could find about Waco, she recorded on a videotape. Stuff that many of the stuff I can't put on my website because it's a news agency of some kind. But we do have the records. I'm digitalizing as we go, a little bit at a time. I'm trying to get everything digitalized. It's a monument, a Herculean task getting this done with all these tapes, and I'm doing the best I can, but it's going to take a while. So Wyla was wonderful. So was Larry, her husband. Larry Lucas died. I don't have the year, but they both passed away. They were very, very special people. I enjoyed their friendship very much, and I think of them often. Karen Doyle Graham. Of course, Karen was Karen Doyle, Clive's elder daughter, who died in a car accident just days before the 30th memorial she was supposed to come. I think it was the 30th memorial. I could be wrong. It was one of the memorials. She was supposed to come and be in Waco, and she died in a car accident just before. It was devastating for Clive. I remember that. She died in 2019. So yeah, it was before the 30th. Maribel Jones died in 2014. Kevin's and Heather's grandmother, Perry Jones's wife, Maribel. She considered me like a son to her. And after everything happened, she says, "Will you still be my son-in-law?" I said, "Yes, Maribel, I'll be your son-in-law as long as you want me to be your son-in-law." I miss her very much. Mary Winborn. Who remembers Mary? Anybody? Mary was quite a firebrand as well. Yeah, she was incredible, incredible woman. Early supporter, was just, if you ever needed anything, Mary would be there for you. She was a wonderful person. Edith Kaprowski died in 2017. This is one of those moments that I wish Clive were here to give a little more detail to Edith, as I don't recall Edith, but she is on the list of treasured friends. Mike McNulty, he died in 2015. Mike, of course, was responsible, one of the investigators for Waco, The Rules of Engagement, the documentary that was nominated for an Oscar. It was the documentary that really changed everything. It should have changed. Let me rephrase. The documentary that should have changed everything, but to this day is so suppressed, as well as the infrared video. You know, from the plane flying above Mount Carmel, they took an infrared video, and it showed the tanks. You could see where the plumage was. You can see the heat signatures of the fully automatic weapons fire going on behind the building. That was all not our technology. That was not our plane. It was the FBI's. This is the FBI's technology that they claim is a sunlight reflection. On an infrared tape, which is heat-seeking, it only shows hot and cold, black and white. If it's hot, it's white. If it's cold, it's dark. You see these flashes, real bright, fully automatic weapons fire, clear as day. You see two explosions in the back of the building, clear as day. No one will talk about it. Not C-SPAN, none of them. Nobody in media in America has what it takes to tackle this and talk about this subject. They won't either. Remember, guys, and I'm not going to make this too political, but everything you see, read, or experience in American media is owned by two companies. Two companies control everything we see. Thank God for podcasts, even though there's misinformation there as well. You really got to look for the truth because they're not going to give it to you, and they're going to make it as hard as possible for you to understand what's really happening. I promise you that. So anyway, that was Mike McNulty was just a very important figure. We miss Mike. This next one is very special to me. Ron Engelman. Ron Engelman had excuse me. Ron Engelman had a radio show. I think it was out of Dallas. It was close, and we were listening to it every day. And he had Tabor and Arnold on, and that's how I found out about Tabor and Arnold. And I told David, hey, these guys want to talk scripture. And they came up with a thing, if they get a satellite dish, if they can move it, we'll know that they're listening. And so when I heard that, I told David they moved the satellite dish. It was an exciting moment. You're in the siege. There's not too much to do. You're surrounded by tanks. You can't go anywhere. And here we are moving the satellite dish, and we're hearing through Ron Engelman's radio program that they can see the satellite dish moving, and they know that we're listening to their show. So at that point, they knew that they could say things to us, and we would hear it. And so that's how James Tabor and Phil Arnold came to be in our lives. And that's how that first seal was written down by David and got to survive. And, here we are, all of this very important players, each and every one of them. So we miss Ron. I actually just put I think it was the first memorial on my website, wacosurvivors.com. And there's different clips of the Waco of that first memorial. And it was Ron Engelman is the host of that. So he talks before and after every speaker for that. So it's really interesting. You see some clips of Ron in there as well. If you want to see who he is, what he looks like, he's on the website. Particularly proud of that one. Pat Matriciano from Jeremiah Films, Dudley, Goff, and I, our mutual friend who was doing that documentary. Yeah, Pat did a lot of great interviews. It's too bad that documentary never got done, but we do have clips of some of the interviews around. Greg McCamps died in 2020. I don't know too much about Gray McCamps is the name. Jack DeVault, we remember him, Jack DeVault. And also Jack McLennan. Sheriff Jack Harwell, as well, as someone that we like to remember. He was always friendly with David. And I honestly believe, and I think a lot of other people that are in the know believe, that if Sheriff Harwell had come out and talked to David, it would have been a very different scenario. I don't think it would have led to all this. David trusted Jack. It's too bad that he didn't have more say in how the ATF handled things. I really think this could have been avoided through him. Richard Mosley, 2017. I remember Richard. That's the name. Wow, yeah, Richard Mosley. He was one of a supporter from very, very early on. A wonderful individual. Dewey Malay. Dewey head up. What was that? Like a health food store for many years. I even think Clive maybe worked for him, but he was one of those health nut guys. He was involved in us very early on, a big supporter, just a wonderful individual. I remember Dewey very well. He died in 2009. We got Edna Doyle. Edna Doyle, of course, Clive Doyle's mother, who lived there with Clive for many, many years in Mount Carmel. Dana, I love the way you put your hand over your heart for that one. Yeah, she was a little firebrand too. You wouldn't want to mess with Edna Doyle, I'll tell you. I don't think I would have wanted to been Clive as a kid. Edna she was very intimidating, but a sweetheart as well at the same time. That definitely, I think more kids today could use a mother like Edna, don't you? She wouldn't put up with any crap. Edna Doyle died in 2001. Gene Smith from Australia. Someone we remember. Excuse me. For some of these names, I have dates that they died. Some I don't. Grace Adams, 2021. remember Grace. I think she was. She knew the people. Yeah, she was involved. I think. Yeah. George Pulliam. Anybody remember George?
Grace and Poya wrote a book.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
and I
right.
got to see them in 2019. So I didn't realize at the time that Grace I was sick, but it was really nice to see them.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to read that book. I haven't read it.
Harkin O'Daughter.
Yeah. Okay. Here's one that's really close to my heart, and I know you too as well, Dana. Bonnie Haldeman. Bonnie Haldeman, David Koresh's mother. Bonnie, of course, was a lot of people understand mental illness or misunderstand mental illness. Bonnie's sister was schizophrenic, and apparently Bonnie's sister wasn't on her medication, from what I understand. And Bonnie went to visit her, and her sister stabbed Bonnie to death. I don't know the year. We have to write that down for next time. But tragic. I miss Bonnie dearly. I mean, I love talking to Bonnie. Bonnie was just a very down to earth, very direct and to the point. That's my kind of communicator. I like someone direct to the point. I would love to speak in parables, but if you ask me a question, I'm coming right at you with what my truth is. And turns a lot of people off. As there's some people here in the audience that can testify to that one. But I just can't help. It's directed to the point. And that's how Bonnie was. And I think that's probably why we got along pretty well.
And Bonnie made the best sweet potato pie you would ever taste.
Ooh,
That woman could cook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my favorite kind of women. All right. And Ken Varden. We have Ken Varden down here. He's the last on the list, which I'm surprised. I may have to add to this. Well, I don't want to add to this. Let me take that back. Nobody else die, please. Just keep going as long as you can. I don't want to add to the list. It'll probably be me next, actually. Anyway, well, sorry, guys. I didn't mean to bring everyone down here. I'll send you all Prozac after going through this memorial with us. Thank you all so much. So that is the list of names, friends and supporters. I just want to remind everyone, especially in the government, you reap what you sow. That's a theme I think we've seen here over and over. And remember, it's all going to come out in the wash, guys, whether you like it or not. It's all coming out in the wash. So y'all keep lying to the people as long as you want. We're here. That is going to conclude the memorial. What was the question, Kevin?
How to get in touch with everybody who's still alive.
I say there's two ways.
How many of us are still left?
Yeah. I don't know the number of how many, but I think the two best ways are on my website, wacosurvivors.com. There's an email address at the end of that somewhere. You can email me directly. And if you're on Facebook, Kevin Jones right here has got probably, I think, the best Facebook page ever when it comes to Waco and supporters and people who care about truth. And that's what's it called, Kevin, for everyone? Your Facebook page, the Waco Survivors Branch Davidian Facebook page.
Survivors Waco.
You started this Branch Davidian Survivors Waco. That's what I got.
I changed it to make it not sound so, I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, the massacre part. Yeah, no, the Branch Davidian Survivors Waco. That's an excellent title. There's over 2,700 members, I think. 1.6. Anyway, there's a lot. It's great. We did great with it, man. So friend Kevin, we'll get you part of the group, and yeah. That's how we get information across to everyone.
And I'm available on Messenger through that site too.
Excellent. I wish we missed Paul today. I wish Paul would have been here. There's a couple other people we missed today too. Dudley, I didn't think you were on for the longest time, and then someone pointed it out. I was glad to see you. Glad you made it. Any other questions?
I'd like to say something if I could.
All right, Mara Moon.
I just want to say that, yeah, all of you guys have changed my life. I am incredibly grateful and thankful to be a part of this tribe. everyone, all of you guys, this huge tragedy happened, and you bring so much joy and love to everybody that tries to come in and learn more about it. Dana, every time I see you or hear from you or even read Facebook posts, you bring so much joy. You just have such a good vibe. I love you so much. And Kat, you too. Kathryn, Wessinger, like, I am just so proud to know all of you guys, David, of course, and Kevin and Heather. And yeah, I just love you guys. I think you're amazing. And yeah, I'm sure everyone else here does too.
Well, thank you. You're the only one brave enough to say it. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know that's not true. Before you all start yelling at me, I know that's not true. How are you today, Douglas? Oh, still can't hear you. There's our old friend Doug, though.
Yeah, can you hear me, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just for a little more information, if you want, of the history going way back, you'll see some of the interviews that I gave to James Davis and Bill Arnold, also Kathy Wessinger. And if you bring it up, Dudley Goff, that's one way of finding it. Davidian, Seventh-day Adventist, Waco. You'll have access to those videos and maybe be informative enough. You'd like to have that as your history of the Davidians. So not too much I can add to that, you know. But just Dudley Goff, Waco, will bring it up on the web.
I think so.
Excellent. Thank you, Dudley. So I just want to say, Douglas, you have a great shirt on.
Good, what?
Oh, I was talking to my friend Douglas. He's got a very nice shirt on. It's the 30th memorial shirt that we came up with. Ed Hart and I. Ed, are you here? I love that guy. I don't know where Ed is, but Ed's another very good friend. He helps out with everything.
I think he
Okay,
said he had an appointment.
No.
Yeah,
Definitely.
am I unmuted now?
No, I just want to say, hey, it's good to say we haven't heard from you, and it's really good to see you. I'm glad you're here as always, and that's a great shirt you have on.
Well, thank you very much. And I can really quick, I can truly attest to the pull when it comes to this. You know, I was turned 25 the day that this happened, and it's just been a part of it ever since. And for probably about the last 6 or 7 years now that I've gotten to know you all, it's just been truly a pleasure and a joy to get to know you all, and to call you family, and to do life with you, to get to know you all. And it's truly been a pleasure and a joy, and love you guys.
Love you too, man.
All right.
We hope to see you soon in Waco. Next
Yes,
year,
sir.
Ed and I are talking about doing a road trip to Waco for sure, and not having any excuses. So we'll have to make that happen.
We need to make that happen. Douglas needs to come and have another barbecue at Kevin's house. That'd be great.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was great. I think Kevin's doing something tonight with some people, right, Kev?
Yeah, I don't know what time yet, but it's today.
Yeah. Anyway, I would like to thank Kevin for being on the ground there and greeting everyone and being there in Waco this year as I couldn't. Having started a new job in life, just boy, what a winter this was, huh? It kicked my butt. I don't know about you guys, but up here it was freezing cold every single day, and it was just worst I've had. Well, it made me miss Waco, let me tell you that for sure. God. Well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it all up. Thank you so much.